I'd like to gavel in our regularly scheduled meeting for April 6, 2015. If you'd all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Here.
Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Robertson.
Here.
Alderman Kramer.
Present.
Alderman Tui.
Here.
Alderman Leahy.
Here.
Alderwoman Bannister. Here. Alderwoman Saunders. Here.
Thank you. Next item, approval of the agenda for the regular Board of Aldermen meeting April 6, 2015. Any changes? Motion, please.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second.
We had a first and second to approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, consideration approval of the Board of Aldermen meeting minutes from March 16, 2015. Any changes? Motion, please.
Motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
And second.
Second.
We had a first and second to approve the minutes from the March 16th Board of Aldermen meeting as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, we have presentations and recognitions. We have two proclamations this evening, one for our Arbor Day and the second one is for Youth Art Month. I will read the proclamations. I was hoping Alderman Nguyen would be here, but I will do this. First one is for our proclamation for our annual Arbor Day celebration, and as a requirement for the City of Brentwood to continue to be a Tree City, USA. Whereas in 1972, actually, isn't that supposed to be 1872? I think it's, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was the first observation with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nations of the world. Whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in the city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the City of Brentwood has been recognized as a Tree City, USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices. Therefore, I, Mayor Pat Kelly, do hereby proclaim April 17, 2015 as Arbor Day in the City of Brentwood and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And furthermore, urge all citizens to plant a tree to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of this and future generations. And our second proclamation is as well, an annual event here in the City of Brentwood, and it's to recognize Youth Art Month. Whereas there's a glare on here. Whereas the Youth Art Month program is a proven effective art advocacy plan, and it helps any opportunity to explain that art is not a frill, but an essential for the full development of all children. And whereas Youth Art Month is an opportunity for teachers to exhibit the creative, appealing, and interesting artwork of their students. And whereas the dedicated art teachers at the Brentwood schools, Tim Rumpel, Brentwood Middle School and High School, Gabby Asher, Brentwood Middle School, and Jamie Davis, Mark Twain School, Sarah Amos, McGrath School, and Audrey Corby, St. Mary Magdalene, not only celebrate Youth Art Month in May, but advocate art creativity all school year. And whereas these teachers initiated and have maintained an art gallery at the Brentwood City Hall since the fall of 1993, and the pictures display has brought pleasure to many. And whereas it is fitting that the City of Brentwood to recognize the interests of art teachers in the Brentwood schools and to recognize the artistic ability of Brentwood art students. Therefore, I, Mayor Pat Kelly, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2015 as Youth Art Month. in the city of Brentwood, and do hereby urge all citizens to support and foster creativity in our youth. So, thank you very much. Do we need a motion to approve the proclamations, or would the Alderman like to? We don't normally do that, but
I would love to make a motion that the board approve both proclamations, please.
And second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is a presentation of the Brentwood Rec Center update.
Good evening. Brian Nearing with SM Wilson. To date, we've taken bids on 19 different work packages, including the roof work. There are 6 packages yet outstanding to be bid. They include kitchen equipment, site demolition and grading, ice rink amenities, and landscaping and signage. Comparing the original estimate for the total program in November of 2014, we are $4,728, or 0.7% over the original estimate. So far things are coming in very well, and that the current estimate still includes a contingency that we're wanting to hold on to help us through the construction process for any unforeseen anomalies we may occur.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Alderman Leahy?
Ryan, we've got a number of bids in this week's packet. Some of them only had one successful bidder submitting an application. If we were asked to go back out on a bid, what would be the likelihood that you'd get a second or third person to submit a bid against it?
It's going to be difficult to say. Predominantly, when you put a package back out, you've got a couple of things to take into account. One being the time. If I delay and rebid the work, will it affect the rest of the job moving forward? So there's always a schedule issue that you want to weigh into that. A lot of times with the public advertising and the invitations that we send out as a general contractor to the subcontractor community, we've already pushed as many folks as we can to try to bid the work. So a lot of times we won't see any significant quantity of additional bidders. If there was outstanding circumstances with another project bidding the same date or time, you may find that then you could get additional bidders just due to conflicts with availability of people to put together their pricing.
Okay. Frank, by the fact that we may only have one successful bidder submitting to us, we aren't jeopardizing the city's procedures because we didn't get 3 good competitive bids, but we opened it up for everybody to buy into.
We have put it out for bid, that's all we can do.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
You'll be back to read the bid amounts?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have anything? Okay. Next item, public hearing. We have a couple of public hearings this evening. I'd like to gavel in the first one, a petition for zoning change from light industrial to PD district in Hanley Industrial Court. Justin?
Thank you. The first public hearing this evening is for a change in zoning from LID Light Industrial District to PD Planned Development District for a property located at 290 Hanley Industrial Court. The subject site is shown on the screen above. We have Strassner Road that runs along the north side and Hanley Industrial Court running along the west side. For a little bit of orientation, the Brentwood Police Department is immediately to the south of the building. In considering the request, the Planning and Zoning Commission took a look at several things, 2 of them in particular that they wanted to highlight. The first was the compatibility of the PD zoning in the area itself. So the subject site is shown again, highlighted in yellow. We have the property to the east is the Hanley Station development, which is zoned UD, urban development. And the surrounding properties are zoned LID, and then you can see as I move a little further to the west along Strassner, we do have several properties and areas that are zoned PD as well. So when the commission considered the request, they looked at basically what was the future for the industrial park and specifically focusing along what is the future along Stroessner Drive. So as they considered that, they came to the recommendation and the conclusion that PD did represent an appropriate use of the frontage of Stroessner Road, and that the applicant's request to come in basically represented an incremental approach that's private property driven instead of city initiated for fulfilling that vision for the future. After they considered the request, they did make a motion to recommend approval by a vote of 5-0. And as a point of clarification, the city's code does require a site plan to be submitted in conjunction with the change in zoning. That site plan is under the next public hearing, which is the conditional use permit and site plan approval for the project.
Okay.
Could you say the regional, what the land use was?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the comprehensive plan, future land use plan designates this area as a regional mixed-use development.
Great. Okay, if anybody in the audience would like to address the board with respect to the rezoning of this property, please come forward and give us your name and address.
Karen Smith, I live on Harrison. So my comments are directed to this 290 Hanley Industrial Development. In looking at the LLC that owns this property, it leads you back to Don Music, and the city has a storied past with him. We just recently got out from under a lawsuit with him, so I just want to caution the board to make sure that we have done our due diligence in understanding the intentions of this property and the relationship and the context of this property in relation to the other properties in the area. The most recent comprehensive plan report that was presented to the planning and zoning, talked about Brentwood and kind of some opportunities, for our future. And one of the things that they did talk about is that we do have some very inconsistent planning, zoning throughout the Hanley Industrial Court, and that is an area of opportunity for us. So I would just caution this before we think about, changing this from LIC to planning PD, is that going to get us what we want as a community going forward? I don't know what Mr. Music's I don't know if he's the only owner for this area, and I think it's important that the other property owners understand as well as we do kind of what what is the future vision that we have for that area, and it's important to gauge all of the property owners as well as understanding what Brentwood wants for that area and not ending up with something that doesn't fit with our future vision. Another municipality tried to put in a big box development on an asphalt parking lot recently, and it failed. And they're now engaged in what they're calling a revitalization process. And it's not just the developer coming forward with a particular project that they want to put in there. It includes input from the community, which includes the businesses, the local municipality and the residents that live in that area, so that it is something that meets a future vision. For years, I've been told that development that occurred in Brentwood was because of our location, but that I feel is only partially true. It's because of some of the relationships that we have between the elected officials and some of our developers. Recent review of the mayor's campaign file. I went up there to review it because a recent 40 South News commented that the mayor donated $346, or I believe that was the amount, but it was $300 and something to St. Mary Magdalene. And I know that at one point there was up to $8,000 in that treasure account. And so I went up just to see where that money went. And the donations all went, or the donations that were made, in other words, given out, all seemed reasonable. But what really struck me as I kind of paged through there was the contributions that we received over the years from the various developers. It was kind of a walk down memory lane of who's who of developers in Brentwood. And so from Don Music, his various LLCs and individuals associated with him, we've received approximately $8,000 into the mayor's campaign over the years. So I just want us to be sure that, this is a clean approach to what's going on. I don't think taking money from developers for a campaign, it's not illegal, but there are ethical and fiduciary aspects that need to be considered, and the interconnectedness and web of influence that happens when that occurs is suspect and can lead to a lot of public distrust. My hope going forward is that we can have our city hall and the development that happens here not tied to necessarily what the developers want, but also what the community wants and needs. Thank you.
My name is Robert Horner. I'm the current tenant, Briarman Sound, which is in 290 currently. I wasn't told of any of this. I just received the postcard in the mail, so I decided to come down and I didn't apply for any zoning changes. I don't know how this is going to affect our business at all. I'm super concerned about parking and traffic. And then I saw there's a whole replan for the front parking lot, and it looks like they're.
Well, that would actually be by the owner of your property, so maybe
Okay.
you should talk to your landlord. And find-
Okay,
yeah.
I just don't know what the repercussions of this being rezoned when we're already in the building.
It's really to accommodate a new tenant for the other portion of the building.
Right. But is that going to affect our current status? Okay. So this is strictly the zoning and has nothing to do with the current plan then?
Right.
But does the current plan need to be approved to have it rezoned?
Well, they wouldn't move forward with the plan unless it is rezoned because it wouldn't be an appropriate use for the site.
Right, okay.
When does your lease expire?
In 4 years, so.
Thank you.
So if my lease expires, then is that going to affect my renewal?
You
at
need
all?
to talk to your landlord.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Right.
Louise Charbonneau, 8833 Madge. Justin, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought the second part of this 290 with the site plan and conditional use for warehouse was for that gentleman. Is his business a warehouse?
So, and this came up during the original discussion at P&Z, I believe, the first site plan meeting. The discussion was on whether or not the existing, under the PD regulations, warehouse does require a conditional use permit. So the second petition this evening does have a conditional use permit that would authorize the existing tenant to stay in. However, if the change in zoning were done with the existing user in there, they would be considered a legal use within that building because when they occupied the building, they were in there.
So perhaps this gentleman needn't worry?
I would say that's correct.
Thank you. I became concerned with 290 Hanley Industrial. I was ill and unable to attend the original Planning and Zoning Commission meeting regarding this issue. I did, however, secure a copy of the minutes, and I did also attend the site plan review. I was the only private citizen in attendance, so Justin will have to prove my veracity if I don't believe I'll speak out of turn. But with regard to the petitioning for this, if we go back to the initial time that 290 Hanley Industrial appeared on the agenda for the Planning and Zoning Commission on the February 18th, it was listed under old business. And I looked at December and January. When was this talked about earlier?
That was an error that was on the agenda.
Okay, very good. Thank you, because I didn't know how far back I had to go to figure it out. Okay, so going back to February the 18th, which is the first mention of 290 Hanley Industrial, we have a petition for rezoning from LID to PD, and we have a site plan conditional use to locate a warehouse. Clean and easy. Come site plan a week later on February the 25th, and Mr. Golterman, the legal representative for the owner of 290, says, oh, by the way, last week I forgot to mention, so that my owner has all the possibilities that he might have for the use of the building, I would like you to text amend PD to include research and development. Now, this is when Louise's ears went up because she lives within 300 feet of a planned development overlay. So now we're going to have a building on the boulevard that's glowing at night and putting out whatever fumes. Well, for tonight, that's gone away. There's no request to text amend PD. And my first thought with regard to this was, why not just re-text amend LID? It's already been amended to permit 30% retail when it's in regard to a business that's already in the building, Just go to 50% or whatever this 290 building requires, and it's easy and done. That wasn't satisfactory. Then we get to the March 11th Planning and Zoning meeting, and it's the same thing. It's for the rezoning to PD, and it's for the warehouse as a conditional use. But comes tonight, all of a sudden we've got a warehouse and outdoor storage associated with the retail use. And at site plan, that's something Mr. Daming asked him if they were going to tear off the building because it's so unsightly. Is that not correct, Mr. Wise?
This will be covered somewhat in the next petition. But as you alluded to, there was discussion that, I guess, the kind of northern.
It's the eastern, it's on the eastern side of the building, and it's just plain tacky.
Right, there's a metal overhang that's there.
Right, is that not the area that
That is where the outdoor storage.
But you
is
do
proposed.
understand that I'm saying this is the first time that's in print. It wasn't on the February 11th, it wasn't on the February, okay.
Well, let's not get into debate. Why don't you just make your point, and then we'll get to that.
Okay, well, my point is, I don't know what the rush is. We just had yes, Mr. Mayor, you did tell us the one time that up there at Promenade, if they dawdled, because Maureen was sorry that Mr. Kramer wasn't here, and we would lose the tenant, and then the tenant didn't come in with their hair placed for how many months? So I'm sorry, sir.
I don't know what you're talking about, but go ahead.
I just don't know what the rush is. We had a comprehensive plan report on the 30th. The gentleman there says there are sub-areas of Brentwood that need further study, they need details, they need a comprehensive plan of their own. And now we've got another retail use being established in the LID. The LID has apparently outlived its usefulness, I understand that. But with regard to this Board of Aldermen having to rely on the truthfulness and the fiduciary ability of the P&Z members, we have one P&Z commissioner who is running for alderman. He's accepted a campaign contribution from the owner of 290 Hanley Industrial. There is no illegality in the acceptance of a campaign contribution. A second P&Z commissioner, who is a friend to this other gentleman, has written an endorsement of that gentleman as a candidate for one of the online local newspapers. A third P&Z commissioner is literally running all over Brentwood and the internet, trying to get his stepson elected to alderman in Ward 3. And a fourth member of the P&Z...
Can we stick to the rezoning issue and get
I'm
out
asking for you to take time with this issue, Mr. Mayor. I'm
Okay.
sorry. If you want to get out the 3-minute timer, I would have tried to stick to that. I'm doing the best I can as a private citizen to tell you why I think this should be sent back to P&Z. Fourth member of the P&Z, I'm trying to demonstrate that perhaps this board can't put as much trust in this P&Z decision as they should be able to. I'm sorry. A fourth member of the P&Z and his wife are running all over Brentwood promoting the candidacy of a certain individual for mayor. There's 4 members who have all of a sudden become politically active when they're supposed to be detached and be able to make competent, judicious decisions. City officials must discharge their duties fairly and objectively, maintaining a trustworthy and accountable relationship with the public. In particular, occupying the office of a city councilor gives rise to 3 ethical duties: the duty of due diligence, the fiduciary duty of good faith, the duty to act fairly, free from any conflicts of interest. The citizens of Brentwood tomorrow night in Ward 3 and for one of the mayoral candidates will be celebrating community, the friendships that have been made from door knocks and handshakes. The citizens of Brentwood have a pretty good idea of the kind of town they want. They'll get the city center where they deserve it. They'll get the retail or whatever revitalization they want. We just need the government to stay out of our way. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Stacy Horner. I also own Iron Man Sound in the building. I know that you're saying that we need to talk to our landlord, but I do believe it's a city issue because we currently already have a lot of people parking in that parking lot that are not supposed to. We have a lot of people, because there's no other parking around. Per our lease, we have 2/3 of the parking. Where are all these people going to park? Are they going to park on Strasner? Are they going to park at the Lutheran facility across the street? I mean, where are the people going to park if this turns into a retail space?
Your landlord owns the entire parking lot on the other side of the building as well.
I understand
Right,
that,
with-
but
and
I'm
there's
just saying
nobody
it's
ever
going to
parked
be an
there.
issue for the city police. It's going to be an issue for everyone because we're going to have to call and have people towed every day, and there'll be tow trucks and everything else. So is that something that has been taken into consideration? Because it says in there that there should be no traffic interference.
Well, as part of the site plan review, again, the next petition, the city does have minimum parking requirements based off of use categories, and those were taken into consideration.
So on our use categories, are they going to change because
No.
you're changing the category of the building?
No. So your zoning designation or your parking use as it will stay the same as it has always been. And then the current space that Miriam is looking to go into, that space will have to park at a retail requirement.
That
The
doesn't.
site has how many parking spaces?
It currently has 39 parking spaces, which we are allotted 26. Because of the green space allotment, they're taking away probably half of our parking, which means our employees will be parking in the street.
So the site plan, again, we're kind of jumping to the next one, but it shows on the front or the northern side of the lot, a proposed 38 spaces, and on the rear of the building, another 36 spaces. And that's all in addition to the space that is used by Fontbonne
Right,
across from there.
okay.
That's not the plot that was shown to us today.
This is the site plan that the board has before them for their approval.
That's not what we're hearing.
Does Ironman pay for a business license,
Absolutely.
BOLA, to the city?
Yes.
Thank you.
Religiously.
Good.
I just don't think that the way this was gone about, there's got to be something in the regulations that say we need a heads up. I don't think the first inkling of this should have come through a postcard that said, hey, if you care, show up at this meeting. Someone should have told us, and I realize that my beef is with my landlord, and believe me, he will hear about it. But I think there's got to be something that's done differently, so we know what's affecting our business, because what they're talking about doing and burying electrical lines and doing all these other things, what kind of interruption to my business are you going to have to accomplish that? Have you thought about that? That's part of the agenda. That's in the ordinance.
But that's a private property,
That is a business decision.
right, and it's owned by your landlord again.
But you're approving him to be able to do all of that, correct?
Well, correct.
At his request, as the property owner.
I understand that, but these are things that affect my business that's been operating in the city of Brentwood for several years now, paying our taxes and doing what we need to do. I believe that we deserve the heads up. If you're going to talk about this, you should have had our input when you made that decision. Did anyone call our company?
We did send 2 notices. The first one, when the first application came in, and the second one that you got here this evening.
We did not receive a first notice. I just think things need to be revamped.
Denise Sebbing, 2612 Porter. As a resident who has been subjected to the erroneous decision that you made with allowing rezoning issues with the watering bowl, having daily to be listening to 75 dogs at a time, sometimes barking all through the day, I would encourage this board to wait. We're going to have a brand-new set of aldermen and a mayor. And I think the fact that there are too many people involved with this board, this planning and zoning, the fact that this developer has had other issues with the city, I think the fact that we have
can I
other
stop?
business. No. This is my 3 minutes.
Okay.
My 3 minutes. I'm a public resident. The fact that we have other businesses that we go to and use as citizens and residents in our area, the fact that they are saying, hey, what about us? Don't tell them to go back and talk to their owner. We all know what's going to happen. Once it gets in, they can't change it. Their business is going to be booted out. I know that because I'm living with that. So don't tell me that people can make changes after the fact, because that's not going to happen. The fact that you're rushing this through is wrong. You've had many residents saying, wait until the new board comes in. Why is it so important to you? It seems personal. Thank you.
Can I clarify something before we make other comment? Unless I am completely wrong, DCM and Don Music has nothing to do with that property. That property is owned by the Holcamp family. I'm sorry, the Holcamp estate or family, which owns the Fontbonne building, owns the building where the Red Bull is, owns 2 or 3 other buildings in Hanley Industrial Court, has nothing to do with Don Music. So all the conspiracies about donations and campaigns and aldermen and P&Z members is crazy. But it's just another conspiracy and this isn't rushing anything through. This is the normal processes for a rezoning application. I'm sure the only reason that, again, is being rezoned is to accommodate the new tenant that wants to go there and share the space with the existing one. The owners of the property wouldn't be going through this to get a new tenant in if they are going to be kicking the old one out. So I think until we get the site plan and the second part to go through, and then we'll make the decisions on the rezoning. But this is not Don Music's property. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Rob Goldterm with DCM Group. Just, some points of clarification is Don Music DCM Group has no ownership of this property, 290 Hanley Industrial. We are just a third-party property management company for this entity. And the reason why we're going through this process is the property's approximately, I think Ironman Sound Studios leases about 13,000 square feet in the building. We were approached, the building's listed by Gateway Commercial for about 8,400 square feet left in the building. We were approached by Miriam School or Miriam Foundation to operate within the building, and that's what essentially precipitated this entire process.
Okay. Thank you.
Because their current use is not permitted under the current zoning.
Right.
And I feel like I needed to put my 2 cents in. I'm Andy Thorpe. I'm executive director of the Miriam Foundation, and we run the Miriam School in Webster Groves. And all the proceeds, currently our store is in Maplewood, and it's the switching post. Our lease is running out in November. We're looking for a bigger space in order to provide that, the services. All the revenue that we generate from the switching posts goes to scholarships at the Miriam School. And in terms of the process, I haven't been involved in this kind of process before, but we've had 2 P&Z meetings. We've gone back to the board. We've been in front of went back to the committee to talk about it. So the process seems to be a good one in terms of the length of time. But I just want to let you know that we're here. We would love to be in Brentwood. We think it's a great place, and it's a good store for Brentwood. So,
Can you just tell us a little bit more about your operation of the store?
Sure. We're high-end resale, so we're not quite as high-end as an antique store, and certainly much higher quality than a Goodwill. All our furniture is donated, so high-end furniture is donated to Miriam. We then sell that stuff to residents. We feel like we're a destination location. We generate a lot of income every year, and all the net profit goes back to the Miriam School. It's primarily, we have 2 full-time staff who run the store, and the rest are volunteers who commit their time to help the school and the foundation.
Thank you.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yep.
Alderman Lee.
You mentioned you currently have a lease that runs you to November. Is there a time issue that we need to move this so that you all can prep your building and be ready to switch in November?
There certainly is a time issue in that the amount, it's a warehouse now, and it would need to be built out. And we really do think that's a better use of that time.
But are you under such a tight frame that if this board put
We're
it
in a
back
time
to
frame
P&Z?
because if it doesn't work, then we're out of the space and we have no place to run.
Okay.
That's the thing that gives anxiety to our organization, is that the current tenant knows we're talking to you and with the potential of the move, and he's already showing the space. Our current tenant is already showing the space.
Got you on the other facility.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Mark Wilson, 2214 Haddon Lane. Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to disagree with you, but it's not simply something that we need to go back to the owner and speak to his landlord about this. When businesses, when residents are impacted by something, we need to consider the businesses and the residents that are most impacted by this, and we need to be respectful enough to address them. On the other terms of trust, if you want public trust, you must earn public trust. And as far as the claim of integrity, if you want integrity and want to claim integrity, then you need to demonstrate integrity. Thank you very much.
Karen Smith Harrison. So if that property really isn't owned by Mr. Music, I apologize for that. However, tax records do show that it comes out of that building. Now, if he's doing the property management, that may be why that happens that way. But it is part of, I think, the concern that we have when all these LLCs operate and own property and try and bring developments into our city, and it's hard to understand who the ownership is behind it. Thank you.
Okay. Close the public hearing. And we will open a second public hearing for conditional use permit and site plan approval for warehouse and outdoor storage for 290 Hanley Industrial Court.
So again, the same property, I'll start with the site plan that has been submitted along with it. So again, we've got Strassner along this front, Hanley Industrial Court along here. So the proposed Miriam space is on the back half of the building. There are several changes to this site plan from the current conditions. Most notably, it's the parking area along the north side of the building. The current condition is basically the asphalt runs directly up to the face of the building. So it has a very office, warehouse, industrial type of look to it. So what they've proposed to do is they've pulled the parking lot away from the building slightly to allow some area for some green space and some plantings along it. And then they've created kind of a plaza area at the front of where the retail storefront would be. So this is showing the improvements to the building itself. So there, we heard mention of an electric pole. That is this pole that is located here. It currently comes down directly in front of the building into where the new retail storefront would be. One of the conditions that Planning and Zoning Commission recommended was either burying that service if it's possible, depending on what's on that pole, or at least relocating it so it's not directly in front of the storefront itself. There was also, in the last public hearing, there was talk about the outdoor storage at Planning and Zoning Commission. The applicants did note that they do like to keep some of their outdoor furniture, patio sets, some things like that that are donated outside, and they've designated this spot over here for the outdoor storage area. You'll notice that they have included a site-proof fence there to screen it from Strassner. There is also an existing metal canopy, and what's in the board packet calls for that canopy to be removed, and it is also in the conditional use permit itself. There were several conditions of approval that when the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed it that they came with. The first was to either relocate or bury the telephone pole in front of the new storefront. The second was there is another telephone pole located here. That pole have some additional landscaping added around it to screen it to the extent that landscaping can screen a telephone pole, but at least the site when you come in. That additional bushes and landscaping be added along Strassner. There are currently street trees along that location, but fill that in with some lower lying landscaping as well. That the canopy over the proposed outdoor storage area be removed. That the sconces shown kind of on the graphic at the storefront be extended along the entire facade to give it a consistent look. There is an existing HVAC unit back in this area here, and that unit is either to be removed and replaced behind the 6-foot-tall screening for the outdoor storage, or if that's not possible, put it on the roof and screened in accordance with the city code requirement. And then the final item, which has now been addressed in the image that you all have, was to make sure that the drive aisle width met the minimum drive aisle width of the city code. So with those recommendations, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by a vote of 4-1.
Okay, and just, could you go over show the entire site plan again? Because the concern about parking was brought up, and you know, they have that huge parking lot to the south of the building that's owned by the site, which you very rarely see any cars parked in. And I know that it has a shared use with Fontbonne, but even then, it's not. So could you maybe go over the parking?
Sure. So this is the lot that you're referring to.
Right.
That Fontbonne actually does have an exclusive lease on that lot. So in reviewing this application, while that's shown on the site plan, primarily for site coverage requirements, those spaces were not taken into consideration when meeting the city's minimum parking requirements. So the building itself was required to meet parking requirements based off of what I would call kind of what would become the rear parking lot if Strassner is considered the frontage, as well as the parking area along the frontage of Strassner through there. So when I previously mentioned, you know, there's 4 spaces, 19 spaces along the frontage here, 15 here, 17 and 19 spaces is what the site plan shows.
Okay, so it's a total of how many spaces?
Point out where the sound studio is. Where's the sound?
The sound studio occupies roughly from this line down.
May I?
As soon as we're done, then we'll open up to, I just want to just clarify real quick. So how many total spaces?
So 438.
Well, but that is 82.
Is it 82?
82.
82 spaces?
Thank you.
Okay,
But
okay.
I'm not
Is
sure
that
where you
all
got
for your presentation, Justin?
Let me verify that number quick.
I can tell you it's in front.
That's where I park all my trucks.
There are docks there, semi-docks, and that entire area is ours under the lease, and it is not included in public parking.
Wait, just one second. We'll open up to the public in a minute.
So with what's shown on there, it's 72 spaces.
Okay. Okay.
So what's shown on the actual, what we're looking at here? 72.
Can I explain something?
Wait, just one second, please. Okay, are you done with your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, now we'll open up to the public, and if you could again give us your name, please.
Stacy Horner from Ironman Sound Industries. I don't know who the studio people are, but no one consulted us on that either. So, if you can put that map back up, please. I'll explain to you that none of that plan works with the way we operate our business. Again, not consulted in any way.
Go ahead. Can you?
Kevin's working on it.
Can you put the drawing up?
So, along the side of the building, there are 5 docks where we have semis parked on a daily basis. We need that entrance and that egress to be able to operate our business. There's no way you can put public parking there and let us do our job, let us operate our business. No one asked us what we were doing with those bays. Our trucks are parked there every day. Semis go in and out of there every day. We cannot have people parking there and operate the business. On the opposite side, where they have their pretty little bushes, there's our employee entrance. So are you moving our entrance, and who's paying for that? Because we just had the entire inside of that building remodeled to fit our purposes. So how is that going to work? So over here where there's a grassy area and the building juts out, that's the employee entrance for our employees. In the diagram, there's bushes there. So Are we losing an entire entrance to our facility? No one's told us that either. But the fact that you think there's over 100 parking spots or 70 parking spots there is ridiculous because they're going to get their cars smashed by a semi.
Okay.
Yeah, Robert Horner, Horner Environment Sound. Yeah, I wasn't even shown the back diagram today when I asked what was going on. And, if that's how they're planning the parking, there's just no way it's going to work. I mean, I've invested so much money into this building, and I have 4 years left on my lease, and then it's just ridiculous. I'm not trying to squash, what Miriam School is doing. I wouldn't mind having them as a neighbor, but, the parking needs to be figured out, especially if that is conditional upon the zoning. So that needs to be figured out first. If they want to get part of Fontain's parking lot, then they can, but I can't have them parking in my dock. There's just no way. It's, that's how I run my business, and I can't continue to operate if there's a million cars everywhere. So, thank you.
Great, thanks.
Justin, can you put the diagram back up there, Reg? Or is it done? I just wanted to point out some clarification issues in regards to some of the comments that have been made. The front entrance right now for Ironman faces west. So it's where the original front entrance was for, I believe, Southside Roofing. And there was a demising wall put up in the building that essentially subdivided into a multi-tenant building. And so the new entrance that would be north. Currently, Ironman does not have access to that, call it vacancy. So in reference to where the landscaping's going, I don't believe that any ingress egress would be impeded by Miriam taking the back part of the building. And then in regards to, from the landlord's point of view, in no way, we are following, or when I say we, the property management company in no way will abide by the current lease that's in place, all the parking that is stated in that lease, and to make sure that that lease is not broken in any fashion.
Can I ask, Rob, you're with DCM and
Yes.
you're part of property management.
Yes.
So why are you here presenting the interest of the owner of the land? Typically, you just manage the property. You're not affiliated with the owner of the property. Is the owner of the property here?
The owner of the property is not here. So we act as somewhat as an asset manager for the property as well. So we kind of have...
Do you have some ownership, DCM, or music in this property?
No.
But yet you...
I said that earlier.
No,
But
I
yeah.
understand. It's just, it's an unusual relationship to have the property manager.
No, it's not.
I think it's very common.
Okay.
I've seen Huckin up here talk and, represent the properties that they own.
Okay.
Just again, because we manage the property and we help facilitate the process, but we are completely, just again, I'll reiterate it, we are completely third party
That's fine.
for this property.
But have we seen the owner, or has the owner come before the board?
I doubt it.
Okay, thank you.
Could you put the diagram with the shrubbery up again? Thank you. To your right, where the little part of the building juts out, that part is what faces Hanley Industrial. That's the front facade of our building. Where the bush is in the corner is a door. So yes, the shrubbery does block the entrance to our employee entrance to the building. In my mind, that's a bush.
Thank you.
But doesn't your lease give you protection for any of that? I guess that's where I'm getting
One
a
would
little
assume,
confused.
but one would assume that, but apparently, no.
Have you talked to legal counsel about that?
We will be.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not. Right. Okay. All right. Alderman Lade.
Justin, if I can ask for a couple clarifications. In the site plan review of this application, The parking is established based on the applicant, the Miriam Group coming in, and the square footage under roof of their application. Yes?
Yes, but it also takes into account the existing user.
Okay, so if we take into account the existing users, did the P&Z Group get to work through the fact that the Fontbank College has an exclusive use and that the other tenant has an exclusive, has their usage, so that the parking numbers that you're giving us are based on what the Miriam Group would have to have for their use only? Or are we double counting spaces?
The information that the existing user, Ironman Sound, has an exclusive lease is something that's new to me on the parking.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And is the required number for the new user, for the
For them combined, it's 49 for the site.
Say that again?
Total, per the city's code requirements.
Right.
For the entire site, for both users, would require 49 spaces.
Okay, so you didn't divide it out by the retail use opposed to?
Yeah, we did. And I've got that breakdown on a note somewhere here. If you'd like me, I can pull it out and tell you what that is.
But it's less than what that, obviously, what that told me.
Yeah, substantially less than what they were showing on the site.
Okay.
So, Robert Horner, the question is, if there's only 39 spots and you're going to make the parking lot smaller by putting this green space in, then how are they getting 40 spaces? Because I currently have 26 of the 39. I have 2/3 of the spaces.
Well, because it takes into account the parking that the owner has shown on the other side of the building as well.
It, which is truck dock.
Right.
So,
That's what the owner has proposed.
okay, well, fantastic.
Okay.
That's conditional.
2612 Porter. Again, with all the different pieces of information, I think this board, if you make a decision tonight, that's fiduciarily irresponsible. And I think Miriam sounds like a wonderful organization. I think we would love to welcome them as a group in our community. But I think bringing them in with this situation as it is, you're just creating more hostility, and we've had enough of that in Brentwood. I think to ask the groups to get together, maybe the owner to sit down with the people that are involved and the new group, what's 2 weeks going to make in the difference? If they can meet and talk through this and work out something themselves, why have to rush it tonight? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll close the public hearing and move on to a conditional use permit, site plan approval for 1001 Hanley Industrial Court.
Your Honor, at this time,
Yes.
I'll recuse myself from the discussions
Okay,
on
thank
this activity because I'm related.
Okay.
As you said, it's a conditional use permit for a 1.7 acre tract of land. The St. Louis County parcel address is 1001 Hanley Industrial Court. Dubuque Coffee Co. is proposed to go into the space.
I'm sorry?
Just go ahead. So the subject site is located at basically the intersection of Hanley Industrial and Hanley Industrial. To the north here, we have Ice Cream Specialties, and then the entrance into the backside of the promenade there. The applicant is a coffee roasting and warehousing facility that wants to go into the space. This space is actually zoned PD district already. Subject site is located here, so we have industrial to the north and east and south the PD to the west of the property. The operation itself consists of basically coffee would be brought into the site. It would be roasted for specific operations. So if a specific restaurant had a specialty blend of coffee that they were interested in, this user would be able to make that coffee and service those restaurants. In reviewing the application, there were two primary issues that the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed. The first was the potential for odor. The applicant supplied information about specific piece of equipment that they install in all of their facilities to basically ensure that the odor or any emissions that come out of the building are odor-free. So outside of the building, you shouldn't be able to tell that they're roasting coffee inside the building itself. The second was there was some curiosity about the use of trucks and deliveries into the site. They did give us information on their truck traffic that they anticipate. The primary delivery truck would probably be about the size of a UPS truck or a FedEx delivery truck. And they would anticipate weekly deliveries coming in about once a week, and then deliveries going out kind of on an as-needed basis. So in the industrial court itself, a fairly low-intensity use. The commission did review it, and they recommended approval by a vote of 5-0.
Okay. This time we'll open up to the general public. If anybody would like to address the board with respect to this conditional use permit, please come forward and give us your name and address. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Can I just ask, Justin, can you specifically, why do they need the conditional use? What's specific about their business doesn't qualify for PD?
It's because it's the warehousing effect of it that requires the conditional use permit.
So it's the light industrial coming back in?
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Next item, we have several bids this evening, and I think who's
Brian.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Brian Deering, SM Wilson. On March 17th, we took bids for work packages 3 through 23 for additional work at the rec complex. And I'll read through the work packages. We got bids in, the recommended contractor, and bid amounts for each. Work package 3 was building and site concrete. Concrete Strategies, recommended subcontractor, value $350,474. Work package 4 for micro piles is Helitech Civil Construction, $198,574. Work package 5 masonry, John Smith Masonry Company, $248,761. Work package 6 glass and glazing, Missouri Valley Glass Company, $246,797. Work package 7 general trades, Cosney Wagner Inc., $359,800. Work package 8 metal studs and drywall, interior construction services, $124,870. Work package 9 acoustical ceilings is St. Charles Acoustics, $28,350. Work package 10 flooring, Flooring Systems Inc., $143,740. Work package 11 is painting and coatings, Rhodey Construction Inc., $76,600. Work package 15 fire suppression, Boyer Fire Protection is the contractor at $118,221. Work package 16 is plumbing, Merlot Plumbing, $349,000. Work package 17 mechanical, Wigman and Associates, $715,000. Work package 18 is electrical, Schaefer Electric Company, $511,597. Work package 20 is asphalt paving, Vernon Jones Construction, $55,000. Work package 21 is site utilities, Merlot Plumbing, $44,200. And then work package 23, testing inspections, Terracon Consultants, and their work is based on a unit price schedule.
Okay, Alderman Lay.
Brian, can you go back to number 18, please?
Yes.
I think you read 500 and something thousand. The information we were given was 495, 797.
Hold on.
So did we get bad information?
There are at least 3 or 4 of these bids where SM Wilson has done what in the business is called value engineering.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to address that.
Yeah, I don't have that number in front of me, but that's most likely, and I'm pretty sure is the case. There was several packages, obviously, in order to try to save the city money, we will go back to the contractors and take recommendations for savings. And along with the entire design team, we will review those. If they make sense and are prudent, we'll then offer them and review them. And
But you went to 511,000 over the 495
Well,
that's
no,
here.
it's actually the opposite. The bid was the 500,000.
yeah, the original bid was
but
511,597. I guess what we're recommending is the value is the 497.
And that's what's in the contract, right?
Well,
I can go over them. Work package 15, which
Well,
is
no.
for fire protection services,
says-
because there are multiple ones
I know.
Yeah.
that have this issue. So work package number 15 for fire protection services. The low bidder on this one is Boyer Fire Protection. The original base bid was $141,824, but through value engineering, the bid on this is now $118,221. So that number has decreased by $23,603. Also, work package number 16. The low bid on that was Gateway Mechanical. Base bid was $389,775. The low bid now is $349,000 even, which reduces this by $40,775. The next one was the one you were talking about earlier, where that cost went up by $274,597. That's work package 18, electrical. Brian, do you want to address why that is?
Yeah, one of the things through the review of the work package, there was a common neutral issue that was identified that wouldn't work in this way it was originally designed and bid, and that was the net delta to make it compliant with code.
so you went from his original bid, changed the specs, and raised up the price because he has to conform.
He has to conform with code.
All right. Did any of your other bid contractors note this problem and adjust it already into their bids, that I'm not comparing apples to apples?
You know, that's a good question. I'm not positive if they have or have not.
Michael Chiodini with Chiodini Associates. On Schaefer Electric's bid, they excluded sharing neutrals on their bid form, and KJWW rejected that, so that raised their price. But no one else had that as an exclusion.
But you have another Renaissance Voice Communication on your bid package as a $237,000 bid.
I believe that firm was just bidding communications.
So you all
which we
rejected
didn't
that
want.
bid to start with?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
That was not a complete scope.
Okay, so now the numbers do stay competitive. Thank
Yes.
you.
The last item is work package 21 for site utilities. The low bidder on that was Merlot Plumbing Company, Inc. Their base bid was $144,200, and through value engineering, that decreased by $100,000 even.
Yep.
So total cost for all of these bid packages is $3,627,024.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Brian, will you describe some of the changes you're talking about, particularly with the HVAC systems? Do they affect the efficiency of the systems or longevity?
No, we didn't change anything dealing with the design of those systems. Primarily, the changes occurred where we were able to reuse some of the existing infrastructure for the underground components that fed into the building for both fire protection and for the plumbing scopes of work. On the mechanical scope, I'm not exactly sure myself what the change would have been under that. Okay, so the HVAC remained the same. So we didn't change the HVAC at all. It was the only changes that we had were on plumbing and fire protection.
Okay, I thought somebody said the HVAC system was revised quite a bit, but maybe I misheard that.
No.
Okay, well, and I was concerned about that because that was one of our larger goals, was to improve the energy efficiency of the center.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the new design accomplishes that.
It will.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
Mayor Kelly, also
Yes.
along the same note, where on the agenda do you want to talk about the rest of the update?
Well, I can do that now.
Oh.
With the project, again, the numbers for the construction are coming in pretty close to where we were hoping. Again, the estimate for the end of the project with the SS Wilson fees and the architectural fees that will be coming out of our capital improvement budget, there may be some adjustments that need to be made when the project is completed. And I think, do we have a number on that at this point where we stand right now, or?
We are requesting that the board authorized an additional $500,000 to fund the additional cost that we have been notified we will need to incur, $556,269. And there was an informational memo that was included in your packet this past week that identifies what those items were. When we initially started this project, we didn't anticipate that there would be a need for furniture replacement. The furniture that is in the building, they're approximately 20 years old. There are safety issues. They're in need of replacing. So we are asking that if the board agrees that this is a necessary cost, that it be approved that we issue a work package for that. Total cost at this point would be $135,000 for the furniture package. Also, we have an ADA inclusion coordinator, Terry Johnson, who looks at all the buildings, all our facilities, and we presented that report at the Public Works Committee several years back. She took a look at the plans, was very pleased with what she saw, but she identified that the city's dasher board system needed to be replaced. She feels that it's not compliant with ADA requirements, that the public entry doors are not wide enough. Therefore, she strongly recommends the replacement of the dasher board, and the cost for that is $175,000. So we are also asking the board to give consideration to the cost of doing that. Well, with the cost of this, the dasher board, the furniture package, the cost of the project also is increasing, the total cost of the project, because that's added on to that dollar amount. So with that, the estimated construction cost for Chiodini Architects and SM Wilson goes up proportionately based on the total project cost. So that bumps up the cost of this project from total $7,065,881 to $7,678,695. When this was approved last fall, the board authorized that approximately $2 million, trying to find it, $17,646 be cash funded through the reserve. So we would like to ask that the board give consideration that this difference that we are presenting to you tonight be also funded in that same manner.
Alderman Lady.
Conversation for the board. Correct me if my numbers are wrong, Bola, but when we first started playing with the rec center and having to bring it up to where we wanted, we started with a $3.8 million project, ran it to a $4.6 million project, approved a $6.3 million project, and now we're to a $7.6 million project. Am I wrong in my numbers and what we're looking at as to how this thing keeps growing?
They're within the ballpark, but remember, when this was first an idea by the board many years ago, what GBA did in terms of proposal for the board was just a patchwork. It wasn't a comprehensive renovation of the center. And once we selected an architect, they brought back to the board areas where they felt that in digging further, they found that there were added improvements that needed to be made, which is why the cost went up.
Well, and I think it's also important to point out is when we were looking at the cost of the project, and then we added those additional fees and services onto the cost of the project. So when we were looking at the construction, of the rec center, those costs, but then we hired, again, by ordinance and by the board's approval, an outside architect to design it and then lead us through the construction, as well as SS Wilson to act as our consultant through the bid process as a professional contracted services. So then those costs go on top of that construction cost. So,
Yes, it does.
And I think the point is, we always knew that you'd have to make an adjustment at some point, and those additional funds would be coming out of capital improvement. So, again, I just didn't want anybody to be blindsided that, these costs are going up as well as when the construction goes up a little bit. Alderman
I'm
Robertson.
just going to point out that 4 years ago, the Public Works Committee put together comparative budgets, and the budget at that time for this scope of work was very similar to this amount.
Right.
It started out, GBA's number that they developed was, as you said, partial, and we added to that what we felt was right for FF&E and other things like that. So I think that there's really no reason to be surprised at all.
Right. Okay. Alderman Lee.
2 more questions if I can. Terry Johnson's recommendation is that the dasher boards be replaced because the doorways are not wide enough, but it's $175,000 to widen the doorways to the skating rink in the way of getting onto the ice. Is that where she's looking to widen something?
Eric, do you want to explain the technical aspect of this?
The issue is that the current board system, correct, the doors are not wide enough. So they're not accessible for anyone to come in and utilize the ice rink. So to make them accessible, we'd have to purchase, yes, a new board system. Our current board system is also 15 years old, 5 years. I mean, it's basically at its life expectancy, about another 5 years at max you can get out of them. But to create that whole, to get that whole new board system, that's what that cost is.
There's no way of taking the current boards and just widening the doorways. I think
No.
we're talking 2 doorways, right?
Yes. No.
For
because-
less than $175,000.
Well, unfortunately not, because when you're talking about the dashboard system, you then mess up all the other boards as they go around. It cannot be done. In addition, what we're doing, the cost is $175,000, but we also had money in our budget to remove the board system, store them, and reinstall them. That was about $25,000, so there's that savings in that project.
So is the $175,000 figure with the $25,000 bidding that's already in there? So it's more than a $200,000
No.
cost? It's
No, no.
$175,000 to do what you're doing.
$175,000 for a new board system, which is at the high end. We haven't really delved deeply into it, but I went high because I don't want to have to come back.
That's
to
an
the board.
estimate, and we won't know until we bid out the work package.
We
Second
didn't
issue.
know we needed one when it was 15 years old?
Well, when we first came to the board in November and we talked about those alternates, that was one of the reasons why we brought that alternate to the board in November.
Right.
And we've been trying to be mindful of things that we don't really need to replace if we can wait a while. But when our ADA inclusion coordinator comes and suggests that when you touch this part of the building, the expectation is that the building will now be ADA compliant, that's why we're bringing that to your attention.
Second
So it
question.
really didn't become a choice at that point.
Exactly. It became
Alderman Lee.
a must-do.
Yeah. The second question, you've got a $135,000 furniture bill. That's the bill for the furniture, and yet we mark on the extra costs for the Keyedy and the Associates and the general contractor for working it through. If we delayed that purchase till after we finish this project, we would lose that extra added cost. So thus we could go back to the 135,000 instead of 135 plus.
That is true, I believe.
It is true, but you lose the oversight of having the GC there to make sure everything's installed properly, to make sure everything's timed properly. The Chiedini, the furniture package would be designed so it all would make sense and actually look good instead of having my wife picks out my suit, having me pick out stuff for everything. I mean, there's all that sort of benefits of doing it at this time. And we also open the building with.
So you have a finished look when we do
Finished
open the
look,
building.
And right now, I'm fighting just pennies and nickels in order to try to keep the cost down. We've gone from the 3.8 up to the 7.6, and I'm just trying to figure out how we financially make this thing
Right.
reasonable.
But the vision for this renovation has evolved since the
yes, and
beginning.
that's
So
why
initially, it was just a patch-up job that we were looking to do. But we've brought more items to the board's attention so that when we do spend all this money on this community center and we're done, it truly looks how we want it to look, and we're all proud about the outcome of it.
I just have,
I'm sorry, yeah.
I don't have a question, it's just a comment. I'm thrilled that the rink is getting a renovation. I know not everybody's thrilled about that, but I think, yeah, it is, it's gotten to be very expensive, but I think that we need to take into consideration that for so many years, it's been neglected. And it's been, it's been falling apart, so we fix what's falling apart, and then it falls apart again, and then we fix it again. And I think that this is going to be a great thing for the community once it's finally done. And yes, it's expensive, but that's what happens when things, we couldn't make decisions in the beginning to kind of figure out what we wanted to do with it, and it's been neglected. So yeah, sometimes costs go up.
And on top of that, a lot of the FF&E costs we have been deferring since before I was even hired, because the current staff is thinking, why replace and bring in new items, skate sharpeners, furniture, all that sort of stuff, if it wasn't going to be an ice rink or a community center anymore.
Right. Okay. Great. Okay. So, Alderman Sanders.
I agree with Cindy. I'm glad that it's getting done. I'm excited. My concern is that when it came time to do it, we didn't know what we were doing with this building and that building and how it incorporates into the town center, which that to me was part of the problem of not updating the comprehensive plan in 2011, because a focus of that was the town center. And then I know we did agree that we would update it, but that we weren't going to make any major renovations. And I know we took that vote, but I don't recall the board voting as the package kept getting bigger and bigger. We've been presented with changes that have been made, but it's just the process. I don't recall us upping the budget. I just recall that the initial process was we were going to have GBA. We decided we couldn't wait any longer. We needed to address the roof and the rink and certain things. And, at the end of the day, this may be the best process, but I don't believe that as a board we voted on the various changes. We only initially voted to take care of the necessities, is my recollection.
Last fall, the board voted on a bond for COP for this project. So
I do, but I didn't remember. But that was the top. I thought that was it.
That was it. All the other things that we brought to your attention has just been as the design has evolved, and we've brought renderings for you to see. But this is the first time where we're now going out to bid on these different work packages, and we have a better idea of what the cost will actually be. And as you've noticed tonight, some of the costs have gone down based on what the different contractors have submitted, and some of them have gone up. So with the 6 remaining items, we expect to see a little bit more of this give and take, and hopefully, with the contingency that we also have in this budget, we might not spend the total dollar amounts. We just wanted the authorization so that we can go ahead and issue these work packages.
Or at least the awareness that it's going to be there. Again,
Just the awareness. We don't need any authorization because right now we're within the budget, aren't we?
Nope.
Well, no, not really. The total,
You're
the construction costs you are, but the architect and SS Wilson, and then some of the items like the furniture and that are adding to it. So,
Well, I mean, we knew the percentage fee when we hired them.
Right.
And so we know if costs go up, their fee goes up. I mean, that's all part of the package.
We knew that.
right. But we didn't spell that out again. I think it was, again, we knew it was going to be a percentage of the project, which was the number we were using, but I don't think anybody ever quantitative what those numbers were going to be. And that's why I didn't want anybody to be blindsided by, now we got to pay this bill. Alderman Lee?
You have a COP authorization for 6.3 right now to work with.
6.2.
6.2, and we're using almost $2 million out of capital improvement. That gets us to the 8.2. So we're still under financial thresholds that we're thrown at to work with.
Well,
there's no adjustment to the budget for this year in order to make this to continue proceeding.
I'm not
Are
sure
we
I
going to have to
understand.
issue more COP?
No. What we're asking tonight is that the board allow staff to cash fund the amount that we're asking for from the fund balance.
So you're asking
Parks and Stormwater fund balance.
Now, so you're asking for that $2 million to come transfer out of Parks and Storms over to this one to cover for the extra budget?
No, the board already approved that.
In the budget?
Yes.
We're asking for more than $2 million.
So it's now $2 million plus this $556,000 that we're asking for.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Alderman Kramer.
Can we go revisit the discussion? There was initial hope of using some of the funds to offset our other COP expenses. that we had in place? Was there talk about that?
Gina, do you want to come up front? I'm not sure I understand that question.
We have some outstanding, I guess it was the library or, I don't know, we're going back several months now.
Isn't there a $383,000 grant that we've?
$370,000 grant, we received that. We also are working with Ameren for Ameren UE rebate in the amount of $44,000. And because of this, some of the items that we've been able to sell on Gov Deals, we're estimating that we will collect about $25,000 on that as well. Do you want to expand on that, Gina?
I guess the one thing I did want to clarify is the actual bond proceeds for this particular project is $5,070,000.
Okay.
So the remainder of that was refunding the 2003 issue. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood that.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. And there are funds in the fund balance in order to offset these. We just wanted to make the board aware of it, that at some point we'll probably need to make an adjustment for those actual payments.
Right. We just wanted to make sure that you understand the total cost of the project and how we plan to fund that cost. And we do have, between the bond proceeds, the grant, the Ameren funds, and the fund balance, we do have sufficient funds to carry out the project.
In this year's stormwater park transfers of money, did we leave the $75,000 flood study additional
We
money
did. It's
for
in
this
there.
year? So
Yes.
we're not zeroing out
No.
stormwater.
It's an expense, so
Okay.
it's budgeted as an
Thank you.
expense.
We're projecting, with the project at the cost that we've estimated at this point, we will end up with $1.15 million in fund balance at the end of 2015.
Okay.
And we believe that that will continue to rebuild after this project is complete because,
This will be a one-time transfer.
this will be a
for that
one-time
to make it work.
use of the fund balance, and then it will continue to rebuild from there.
If we authorize this under the reserve policies, do I need a supermajority of the board of 6, or does it need just a simple majority of the board of 5 to approve this, since I'm going into the fund balance?
Well,
What amount are you asking for, Gina?
I'm sorry?
What amount are you asking from the fund balance?
We originally requested $2,017,646. We're now requesting $2,560,465.
And the reserve level is still in place.
The fund balance policy will still be met.
Right.
Even after we
But in
increase the
the,
use.
but in the fact that you're pulling it from the reserves, if I recall the code correctly, does require a supermajority of the board to spend into the fund balance.
Only if it's
go below.
below the fund balance thresholds,
Of the low-
which it is not.
That low 15% that we all argued over, keeping it
Correct.
conservative.
I think it's like 5 or something, though, for.
The
that's for
capital reserve is 5% and the operating reserve is
General reserve.
15.
Okay?
Super.
All right. So do we have a motion to authorize the additional funds at this time?
Yeah, I'd like to make that motion.
And second?
Second.
Second, okay. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
No.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
No.
Thank you. Next item, and we will have a number of bills this evening for those additional, those contracts for the work to be done. So, next item is hearing of any matters of public interest upon any person present. If anybody'd like to address the board, please come forward and give us your name and address.
We're just now getting to that.
Yeah.
Louis Charbonneau, 8833 Madge. I was real disappointed when the agenda came out for tonight's meeting because I had hoped that we were going to be able to have a celebration of your service, Mr. Mayor, and a celebration of Mr. Robertson's service, and a celebration of Mr. Wynn's service. We certainly have a lot to be grateful to you for. The retail base that's keeping us in the green, that permits us to not have to pay property taxes to the city, is a real boon. But somewhere the wires have gotten crossed. The quality of life for many of us is not what it used to be, what we would like it to be. But I knew when I didn't see cake on the agenda that that was not going to happen. But I'm here now to commend Bola Akande and the board for the postcards that were sent to the Ward 3 residents. It's an oversized postcard, meaning there's a little bit of oversized print. These are 300s, by the way. And the oversized helps those of us who have the vertical post box so that we can pull them out of the bottom. Additionally, in 2013, I did mention this at Public Safety or Public Works. I offhandedly said to Bola, I asked about whether Brentwood collected a utility tax because something was showing up on some of our water bills. And she said, oh, I did hear of such a thing. It took her forever to convince them that we didn't owe that tax. And my last water bill, which I brought as show and tell to that other meeting, had a rebate with regard to that tax. Now, I use the minimum amount of water as a single person, so it's not as much, but I hope some of you really saw an amount that was gratifying, and that's from Bola's hard work, so thank you.
Denise Seving, 2612, and I'm coming before this board again to kind of share my frustration with the tar on the street in front of our house. You know, and I appreciate some of the things that have, as Louise just shared, you know, with the postcards and that. So don't get me wrong, I do appreciate some of those efforts. But our personal situation is that a contractor came into Brentwood, came down our street, spilled tar on the street, all down the street. We've been told by the city administrator that, you know, Public Works has said, just have to let nature take its course, can't do anything. But a citation was issued to the owner of the company that was responsible for the tar down the street. The prosecuting attorney said, yeah, can't do anything because didn't see them do it. Agree that they should be responsible. They're an outside party coming in, destroying our property, but we can't do anything unless you personally saw them or one of your neighbors. Well, of course, it's in the middle of the day, and who saw them? So anyway, we're back to there's tar on the street, and after 5 months, nothing's been done. We've been told, just live with it. Our streets are newer streets in the city. I know there's all kinds of other streets that need a lot more work than our streets. So we're going to have to live with our streets the way they are for a long time. We've been told that there's nothing that can be done, and I want to challenge that. We asked that, you know, who are the experts that have been consulted? And we were told, well, we can provide it, but you have to provide a sunshine law request. That's crazy. We actually asked some people that are in the industry and said, is there anything you can do to minimize the damage? And there are. There are things that are very minimal cost. But I think it's ridiculous that we have to run around and go in circles. For 5 months, we're living with looking at this when there is potentially something that can make it better. And I'm going to challenge the city to go back and revisit that. Bola, if you can ask your Public Works people to talk to some people that do asphalt laying. We have, and there are some products that would take it, and it would not be expensive. Secondly, we have noticed an improvement. Thank you, Chief Fitzgerald, that you know, we haven't heard trash trucks for the last week, but it was a holiday week. We are concerned that, you know, because, you know, 7 warnings were issued in the matter of 2 weeks, that, you know, tickets were never shared, tickets were never enforced, citation has really never been enforced other than there's been a police presence, and we do appreciate that. I don't want to minimize that, but we are concerned that going forward, when the police don't have time to sit there in the morning to kind of be a warning to the trash trucks at 1 or 2 particular businesses. It's not all of those businesses down there. A lot of those other businesses have trash pickups out during the daytime. Even with cars in their parking lots, they manage to be able to pick up trash at normal business hours. This particular facility, PDI, Particle Dynamics Incorporated, continues. They have docks in the back. There's not even cars parking in the back. So why they can't allow or enforce or insist that their trash haulers pick up after 7 a.m. in the morning, we shouldn't have to have our police force going down and constantly police that. And if, you know, if PDI can't enforce it, then we should be issuing citations. Andy, we've sent you several emails over the last couple of weeks, and we've not heard any response. So we're either concerned that the forwarding method to your business isn't working, or you're just choosing not to respond to us. So in the other case, I would hope that it's the forwarding that's the issue. But if not, I would suggest maybe going back to the Brentwood email address, or maybe a personal email address, because apparently you're not getting our emails. Second,
No, let her finish.
and finally, robocalls. During this campaign, we had robocalls that were made to our house and our cell phone. I don't know how they got my telephone numbers, because I can't get calls when I ask for calls from city folks sometimes, and yet I have a robocall from Pat. It's a candidate that you're supporting, publicly have supported. So I'm wondering how my telephone numbers were shared with a robocall. This happened in the other campaign a couple of years ago, and I don't appreciate getting robocalls from other candidates when I can't get calls otherwise. Thank you.
I'm Karen Smith Harrison. I'm coming before you now in regards to Bill number 5971. This is an ordinance that is changing some of the parking along Harrison. So I actually live on Harrison. It is a very busy intersection. It's an example of the challenges that we deal with when we're bringing commercial and residential right up together. And unfortunately, I actually experienced an accident there in October. I knew many people have had a lot of fender benders and accidents at that intersection over the years with the busyness. And unfortunately, I got to experience that firsthand. There's really 4 things going on with that intersection, and 5 if you consider more broadly than that intersection, because you've got in and out of City Hall. So there's just a lot happening right there at the top of Harrison Avenue. But the 4 things that are specific to that intersection are, you've got West Community Credit Union, which is a very busy business, which we're all very happy about, and they're a wonderful credit union. So I'm not complaining about that busyness, but it does make the intersection busy. The property is bermed. We allow parking on the south side of the street, so it obscures the entrance coming and going out of West Community Credit Union. On the north side of the street, there's a house with no driveway, so they end up parking on the north side of the street. So that makes that intersection very tight to get through. And then in addition, the 4th thing is that Patton comes in just a few feet from where on the north side of the street, just a few feet further west of where the West Community Credit Union is. So visibility is really hard. As I mentioned, fire vehicles and larger vehicles have difficulty getting down that street. And so I think the ordinance is a great first step at easing up some of the issues that we're having with that. The north side, I'm not sure if we can do anything, because, as I said, that is a challenge because that particular resident doesn't have parking, and I don't want to inconvenience someone that bought a piece of property and thought he could park there, and now I don't want us to take that away from him. I don't know if there is a way, though, to mitigate not having the parking go all the way up to the intersection of Patton and Harrison, just to open that up again, because literally as you're coming down that street, you can't see what's coming out of Patton. Oftentimes you also cannot see what's coming out of West Community Credit Union. Thank you. And just one other thing, that Arbor Day resolution, I thought that's great. I love the fact about Arbor Day because I love trees. It's one of the things that attracted me to Brentwood. There's sort of a conflict because on our street, when they did some work, they took out all of the trees, and they told us they didn't want to put trees back in between the easement of the sidewalk and the street because of the issues with sidewalk and tree roots. And they told the homeowners that had a tree in the easement that they could request to have a tree put in their yard, but they didn't want it, the tree-lined streets. But yet I drive around in a lot of other areas of Brentwood, and there still are tree-lined streets. So it would be nice if we could have, and I don't know if there is a policy about how we do deal with trees in Brentwood, but there seems to be a conflict because some of us on our street wanted to keep the trees, and we were told we can't, and they continue to come down throughout the city, yet we just passed a resolution for Arbor Day. So I think maybe it would be nice if we could have some clarification around that. Thank you.
Susan Ryan Pine. Not quite sure really what I want to say. I want to thank you for those of you who initially voted to reimburse me with the legal fees. For those of you who voted yes, I appreciate that. I think you understand the details of it. For those of you who did not hear me when I spoke initially and tried to bring many of the issues forward, it's unfortunate. I have been told that prior to my experience that there wasn't any near as much contention and problems here at Brentwood. But because all I know is the last 3.5 years, it's been an interesting experience to learn how our city government runs or doesn't run. It's been amazing. I am a businesswoman, an accountant, and someone who actually bases decisions on facts, tries to be fair, always tries to give people the benefit of the doubt. And so it's been a long haul for me. But one of the things that I have really gotten much better at is public speaking. Prior to ever coming up here, I had never spoken in front of the public, ever. I was terrified to come up here the first time. I took 10% off my public speaking grade because I was shyer than people recognized. So, of all the things that have happened to me, all of the dysfunction, all of the poor behavior, one thing I'll take away is I am a better public speaker. And so I thank you for the Toastmasters experience.
Susan Lee, 8611 Eulalie. I have a question. Thank God they're finally going to work on Brentwood Boulevard. But
Miracles never cease.
wasn't it said that when they start working on the Manhasset project, the trucks will be going down Brentwood Boulevard and then up Eager with all the heavy trucks? Because they talked about the damage that would occur on Eager. What is going to happen to Brentwood Boulevard if we get this thing resurfaced and redone? Is this going to get torn up again? And if it does, whose responsibility would it be to fix it? Is it going to be the county and they're going to say they can't afford to do it? I mean, is there anything in place that they can go an alternate route and stay off of Brentwood Boulevard with all this stuff? You know, we've waited a long time to get this road done.
Okay.
But anyway, I just wondered if there's anything or anybody that would be responsible for any damages to the street.
Yep,
Thank you.
okay.
Karen Smith on Harrison. I'm sorry getting up here again, but I just wanted to make a comment and follow up to Susan's comments earlier. When she went through the experiences that she went through and she was told that, you know, that had never happened before. You know, we had that on Harrison because those homes that went behind us on Litzinger, they were not supposed to be at the level that they are at, and that never came back before planning and zoning. And I'm not sure how that happened, that they brought in all that dirt and put those homes up as high as, that sit up as high as they do. So, you know, I think that what happened is a trend, and I think we probably need to look at how we bring things forward to make sure that we are not inconveniencing existing homeowners, property owners, businesses, whether they're renting or own the property, but how we bring these things forward. And also just in follow-up to Denise Sebbing's comment about the tar on the street. You know, we've had contractors on our street and they've damaged city property. They damaged the curbs, they damaged the sidewalks. When I brought that forward and both, thank you for intervening for me, but those aren't my sidewalks, those are city sidewalks. I didn't put them in and I'm not maintaining them. But, I don't think that those sidewalks were replaced to the same degree, and from what people have told me, they're not. But when contractors come into our community, they should not be able to damage our community and walk away, and there's no recourse there, because we have to live with it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kirk Becker. I live at 118 Sylvester Avenue in Webster Groves, Missouri. Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and members of the Board of Aldermen as well. I am here on behalf of the International Association of Firefighters, Local 2665. We're the organization that represents the Brentwood firefighters. I believe Ms. Akande provided you all with this memo in your packet. Is that correct?
They will receive it during executive session tonight.
Tonight, okay.
Okay. I'd like to share this with the board if I may. With my passing that around. I'm here tonight to ask that the board consider interceding on the matter of the...
Mr. Becker, may I interrupt you? Point of order, Your Honor. If that document comes out now, does it not become a public document? And that's not what we want to do at this stage? So by rights, it should not be distributed at this time.
He wants to present it.
And all labor negotiations, we
If
said
it
had to be in
becomes
closed
present now,
session.
it becomes a public document.
Well, I haven't read it, so I don't know what the,
We didn't get
the
it
gist
ahead
of
of
it
time,
is,
so it
so.
shouldn't be distributed.
If,
This issue should wait until the next board.
So I think it's inappropriate that yes, you may make your comments, but I think the document you all would like us to keep in negotiation sessions, not to go to public negotiations.
I mean,
We
candidly,
agreed
I'm
to
not concerned about whether it's
negotiate
part
the
of the public record or not, Alderman Leahy. I mean, if that is the board's pleasure, then I certainly respect that. I received correspondence from City Administrator Akande that the board had received this last
I
Thursday.
did not say
Friday.
that. I did not say that.
Then it's evident that this needs to be done in closed session.
Exactly.
And at the last meeting, we decided compensation was going to be held till the new board.
Your Honor.
So,
I understand this is a complex topic, but my understanding, and Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, the gentleman, as with any resident or anybody that wants to come before us, can pass these documents out. It's up to our city attorney to instruct us whether to read the document or not. We're happy to receive it.
I can't control what an individual does.
There you go.
yes, you can, as far as if
I don't represent Mr. Becker or the union.
but you do represent the city, and if Administrator Conde felt that this was, as she was already aware of the document and felt that it should be done in closed session, you can speak to that. That's your job as city
Well,
attorney.
And the city is going to discuss it in closed session. I would not recommend discussing it in open session.
Okay, so if it's distributed to us, let's distribute it under confidential cover, because then it doesn't have to be distributed to
My
the public.
recommendation is that you review it and discuss it only in closed session at this time.
That is one of the reasons why I told Mr. Becker that it will be shared with the board. That's the extent of what I said. You asked that it go out with the board packets. I didn't respond to that.
I specifically asked in an email that the board be provided this memo on Thursday or Friday of last week, and your response to that was that the board would receive it as requested.
Exactly. And they're going to receive it tonight in
That's
executive
not-
session.
That's not Thursday or Friday of last week. And I don't have the opportunity to speak to the board in closed session, and my ability to provide them comments in the open session is somewhat limited if they haven't had the opportunity to review the information that we requested that they received last week, so that they had the opportunity to go over it over the course of the weekend at their leisure.
Thank you. I'm not going to debate you.
Your Honor, if I may.
Kurt, if I may, why don't you, if you feel comfortable, just give us a gist of
Sure.
what your comments are, and
I'd be
then
happy
we'll
to.
review it.
Yeah,
Is
thank
that
you very
okay?
much. I
Thank you.
appreciate that. On the memo that you will be receiving during closed session, on page 2, we asked the board to consider several different options as it relates to this pay plan. As you're all aware, the city of Brentwood has operated without a pay plan for a number of years now. That is causing considerable harm to the competitiveness of the public employee pool here, and I think the city reasonably is at risk of losing some pretty qualified members of their staff, including members that I represent in the firefighters in the fire department. Ms. Akande, Mr. Jury have come to negotiations, and we've worked really hard to try and reach an agreement. I'm not here to cast dispersions or anything along those lines. There's been a lot of effort put into reaching an accord on this. Unfortunately, we're at odds over some language that has absolutely nothing to do with this pay plan. In the outset of this, the firefighters put forth a suggestion as to what we thought an appropriate pay plan would look like. The city hired a consultant, and the consultant made a recommendation. And while the consultant's recommendation isn't consistent with what the firefighters had proposed, we nonetheless acquiesced and agreed to the city's consultant's proposal. That's the heart of this. When you talk about these kinds of complex negotiations, I've been doing this for over a decade, 90% of the time you're arguing over the red meat of things. And what's odd here in Brentwood is that we're not. Both parties are in agreement that this pay plan is suitable, that it's acceptable, and that there's no reason why it shouldn't proceed. We have concerns that the pay plan is being held up over nuances that have nothing to do with the pay plan. And that's where the impasse, if you will, has come. And our feelings are very strongly that it's incumbent upon the board at this point in time to intercede on behalf of all employees of the city, not just those in the fire department, and take the recommendation of the consultant and make that pay plan effective for the fiscal year 2015 budget. It's been said that that is not something that can be done due to ongoing negotiations. I've been told that anyway. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. And I stand before you this evening, giving you not only my word in a public forum, on tape, I'm sure, that no harm will come to the city of Brentwood from the organization that I represent if you choose to impose that pay plan in your executive session this evening. And if need be, in order to facilitate that happening, I will instruct our attorney to draft a hold harmless letter for the city of Brentwood, resolving or absolving the city of any potential litigation that could conceivably be, dreamt up in some lawyer's office somewhere as it relates to the imposition of this pay plan for the fiscal year 2015 budget. That is the extent of the efforts that we are willing to and have tried to go to in order to reach an accord with the city on this. We hope that that gesture is received well by the Board of Aldermen. We hope that those efforts that both parties have made are taken into consideration this evening when you discuss this in your closed session. I'll make the offer. I don't certainly expect that I'll be taken up on it, but I would be happy to join you in that executive session if you would like a counterpoint to these discussions. I've done that in other agencies, so it's not out of the question, but like I said, I don't expect that invitation to be extended. And I do appreciate your time this evening for allowing me to make a few brief comments. Thank you.
Kurt, just as a clarification, though, just so the public understands, when you're saying reference to the pay plan, you're referring to the step plan, and just because that's the terminology we've been using, I just want to make people understand what we're talking about. And that's what it was referred to in the comp study that was done by outside consultants and recommended to the city.
That is correct. Right. We're referring to the STEP plan, and I think it's worth pointing out to the public, and I appreciate you addressing this. This STEP plan, candidly, really only stands to benefit 6 of the 21 members of the Brentwood Fire Department that I represent. In a lot of respects, there are ways that it could be perceived that it is a challenge. It could potentially do harm to a majority of the people in that shop. The the reason that we're advocating this evening that this be implemented at the board's discretion in its executive session is because without that step plan in place, the most junior employees in the fire department don't have a structure under which they will receive, the kind of compensation necessary to make them competitive in this marketplace. The city of Brentwood has hired these folks. They've gone to fair expense to do so. They've trained them. They've developed a sense of trust in this community. And, candidly, the time that they've put in this community makes them marketable to other places that have step plans in place that would be a significant upgrade in pay. So if we don't act on this, we do stand to lose those folks, and we do hope that the board will take affirmative action in that regard.
And one other point, just so the public understands too, it wasn't just the fire department, it was really all the public safety employees. It actually affects 11 policemen as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you. No.
If I could make a recommendation, but my recommendation is that there be no discussion about anything substantive concerning the negotiations and the board's discussion of it. Those are my recommendations. I'll leave it up to the board to decide.
No, I would agree, and I just want to point out those things because all of that was part of the compensation study that was public and presented to the Board of Aldermen.
And the information I have is public and presented to the Board of Aldermen. Staff in the compensation survey recommended overpaying employees for morale purposes because they were expecting to get $100,000, so they should definitely get that. This is in the public information. The STEP plan, not all cities do STEP plans. I have supported the STEP plan. Some cities do 10 years, some cities do 8, some are 4. I've supported that because of the nature of that position and the fact that, if you're going into a burning building and you're 7 years, 15 years experience, you have the same level of risk. And the same thing is also with those positions. There's a better chance that your career could end shortly, and therefore we want to get them to top pay, both fire safety and policemen to top pay. The negotiation comes from us having to be fiscally responsible with residents' tax dollars. And we have to make that decision as to where we want to be within the pay philosophy. We can listen to recommendations, but when the rationale is morale, that's not an adequate reason for aldermen alone to say, okay, we're going to pay higher than other cities by $20,000 in some instances. We have to be responsible. We've not done a compensation study in the past. We finally commissioned one that was supposed to be ready in time to discuss the 2015 budget, but it wasn't. It was delivered as we were sending it to the board. You're here a little too late. You should have been here when we were discussing the 2015 budget. We'll definitely take your consideration in for the 2016 budget. But at that time, as a board, we agreed that we were going to wait and take our time digesting the compensation package. You cannot look at just a pay plan without looking at the pension plan and all of the other benefits. And if you've looked at that study, you'll realize that we're not only generous in our salaries, we're very generous in our benefits, which puts us even further over the market. So we decided that as a board, we needed to take our time and review this study. It's not fair to cut people's pay. We did not want to be punitive. At the same time, it's not fair to make decisions that are pushing their salaries even higher without looking at compensation as a whole. You come the night before an election. There will be a new board in place, and we welcome you back when that board gets seated, and we'll take a look at your recommendations then. But the timing of this is it's been pushed. The pension plan was on for the March 2nd agenda. I asked questions. I still haven't seen the red line version of this. The compensation has been on each agenda. I thought we came to a conclusion that we were going to wait for the new board, but it keeps getting pushed at the last minute. We'd love to have you back. We'd love to hear you. But again, you are union, and if we offer more, why wouldn't you take it? But that's your responsibility.
All right, let's not get into a debate.
We have a fiscal responsibility to the residents. You have a fiscal responsibility to the firemen and the firemen's union. It's a negotiation, and in the future, we'll be glad to negotiate with you.
I appreciate your comments, if I could, Mr. Mayor.
One more, Kurt, please. Thank you.
The negotiations are ongoing, and the city has put forth this, and it was the city's suggestion that this agreement be reached in a timely manner. We've met weekly for quite some time now, well past the introduction and passage of the fiscal year 2015 budget, with the intent of having a pay plan, a step plan agreed upon by both parties, so that it could be implemented by this board. So those are the marching orders that we were given as a negotiating team, is to reach an agreement, and both parties did do that when it comes to the structure of the step plan. Now, I'll share with you, as you look at St. Louis County as a whole, there are about 1 million residents in St. Louis County. About 750,000 of those residents and about 75% of the property in St. Louis County are protected by fire protection districts. When you look at the way that fire service and EMS delivery is conducted in St. Louis County, the vast majority of the market is not the municipal market, it's not the cities, it's the fire districts. If you look at the fire districts, and if you look at the elite cities in St. Louis County, and Brentwood is certainly one of them, the salaries that are being proposed by this consultant that the city hired are certainly in line with that group of folks. You are not out of bounds at all, candidly.
We are with the 14 other cities.
No,
It's in the debate. But we chose them as comparators. We're not a fire district.
Thank you, Kurt. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Your Honor, I asked the cause for about 20 seconds to change batteries and
Okay.
moisture for it. Thank you. Won't be long.
And then Karen, you will be our last speaker this evening. How's that?
Sorry, I'm coming up here again.
Bring some batteries. Usually it's a tape change or like a CD change.
Yeah.
Well, we're
This
waiting.
is the Octavia's little recorder, and apparently wasn't fully charged. I don't want to miss anything.
While we're waiting, Mayor Kelly, there's nothing to do with that conversation. I just want the public to know, when I'm.
No, you can't if you're addressing the
I wasn't going to
public.
talk about mayoral or any.
Well, but if you're talking to the public, it should be on the record at a board meeting.
Just going to talk about my phone.
Talk away.
Okay, thanks.
Karen Smith Harrison. So was that gentleman from St. Louis County Fire? Is that the organization that he was representing?
He represents the fire union for St. Louis County.
So, I'm still trying to learn, and I have no idea, I'm not following anything of those conversations, but and again, I apologize for this, but there were some significant contributions in your campaign from St. Louis County Fire, as well as from Brentwood Fire Community Fund. Again, and I didn't have a chance to look at anybody else's campaign files while I was up there, but if anybody is receiving, that's going to be voting on anything in closed session, if you're receiving any campaign contributions from any of these organizations that this impacts, I just caution you because I feel like that would be a conflict of interest. So I didn't look at everybody's campaign files. I don't know if any of the others of you that have that, but just as a conflict of interest, I would encourage you not to recuse yourself from those votes. Thank you. Oh, and since I'm the last one and I can't get up again, I do want to thank those of you that are not going to be on the board coming forward for your time and service. Although I have not agreed with a lot of you a lot of the time, I do appreciate for your public service. Thank you.
Okay, close public comment. And Alderman Saunders.
Yes, and I know I get frustrated when certain things happen, but at this particular juncture, I feel like we were pretty much blindsided with that. And that's okay, though, because I still articulated my arguments, and I feel that's fair. But I also wanted the public to know, when I'm on my phone, I'm not looking at personal information. Sometimes I'm looking up things. We don't have internet wireless access in here, so I can't just bring my laptop and look up documents or look up some of the concerns that are being addressed. So I use my phone because I have a data package to do so. Thanks.
Okay. I was looking at my phone. I was trying to find the basketball score, but I was unable to. So. Anyway, let's move on to introduction, reading, passage of bills. First reading of bill number 5949, 5964, 5965, 5966, 5967, 5968, 5969, 5970, 71. First and second readings only. Motion, please.
So moved, Your Honor.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Opposed?
opposed?
Opposed.
Okay.
I would have liked to have put the motions on hold for the rezoning and,
Well, you can do that when we get to the bills, that's fine. That's fine. And, I did just want to comment about Brentwood Boulevard and the construction. The concern on Eagle Road is that it's not a main thoroughfare. Brentwood Boulevard should be built to withstand the weight of the trucks or heavy trucks are using it on a daily basis anyway. But ultimately, it is St. Louis County's responsibility. Obviously, that's why it's taken so long to get it completed now. But hopefully, they would monitor that if it was exceeding the limits that are approved for that roadway. So, okay. So if we could have first reading of bill number 5949.
First reading, Bill number 5949 by title only, an ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 300 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by repealing sections 310.030, 315.120, and 315.130 of said chapters relating to play streets, enacting in lieu thereof new sections 310.030 and 315.120, providing for the maintenance of this code, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay, synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. This bill was previously on hold and back to committee. Bill number 5949, ordinance to repeal and amend the play street in the Brentwood Municipal Code. 3 sections of the Brentwood Municipal Code refer to play streets. Title 3, 300, Traffic Code Section 310.030. 315.120 and 315.130. In 2014, the Public Safety Committee and the Board of Aldermen voted not to make any changes to the language in the code as play streets legislation was too restrictive. Public Safety Committee recommends the Board of Aldermen delete in its entirety the last sentence in Section 310.030, delete sections 315.120 and 315.130 in its entirety, and instead insert a new Section 315.120 that refers to slow-children. This bill will be supplemented by a future bill that addresses streets on the schedule. This bill is 5949.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5949 by title only, an ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 300 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by repealing sections 310.030, 315.120, and 315.130 of said chapters relating to play streets, enacting in lieu thereof new sections 310.030 and 315.120, providing for the maintenance of this code, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay. Do I have a motion, please?
Your Honor, motion to approve Bill 5949 as presented.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
We have a first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5949 is now ordinance number 4619.
Thank you. First reading of bill number 5964.
First reading, Bill number 5964 by title only, an ordinance amending Title I, Chapter 100 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, pertaining to special meetings, providing for the current maintenance of this ordinance, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5964 covers an amendment to the special meeting notices inside our Brentwood Municipal Code. This is a bill to amend Chapter 110 of our code pertaining to special meeting notices. The changes in the bill clarify who can deliver special meeting notices, where notices will be delivered, and also provides for secondary meeting notice to be delivered to aldermen via electronic means to an email address that's already been registered with the city. This is Bill 5964.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5964 by title only, an ordinance amending Title I, Chapter 100 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, pertaining to special meetings, providing for the current maintenance of this ordinance, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay. have a motion, please?
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to perfect Bill 5964 into ordinance form, please.
And a second?
Second.
We had a first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5964 is now ordinance number 4620.
Thank you. First reading Bill number 5965.
First reading Bill number 5965 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of tax increment refunding revenue bonds, Series 2015 Hamley Station redevelopment project of the City of Brentwood, Missouri for the purpose of refunding certain prior bonds, funding a debt service reserve fund, and paying costs of issuance of the bonds, authorizing the execution of certain documents, and authorizing certain other actions in connection with the execution and delivery of the bonds.
Thank you. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, a rare circumstance where the synopsis is almost shorter than the title bill itself. Bill number 5965, the Hamley Station redevelopment project, tax increment refunding revenue bonds, Series 2015, approximately $6,150,000. Bill authorizes issuance of tax increment financing revenue bonds for the Hamley Station redevelopment project. Also authorizes refunding prior bonds, funding a debt service reserve fund, and paying cost issuance of the bond itself. Bill 5965.
Okay. Any questions? Alderman Leahy?
If I may, Your Honor.
Sure.
The purpose of this bill is to try to get us a lower bond rate and to save some money.
Mm-hmm.
Can we get an estimate of what that savings is versus the cost of refinancing the bonds?
I am being told by Jim Leahy that in terms of net present value, including the cost of issuance, the savings will be between $225,000 and $350,000.
And that includes adding the issuance costs in there. Also
Right.
reducing it by 2 years.
Yes, 3 years.
3
We're bringing
years.
it down earlier by 3 years.
And Mark Grimm's here too as well, if anybody has any questions for Mark.
The current bonds are supposed to mature, if I'm not mistaken, in March of 2029?
2026.
2026, so I missed it. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Saunders?
Yes, I have questions for Mark.
Mark, thank you.
Was the original issuance of this bond a private sale? The real issuance, the initial issuance of
It was a
this?
public offering. Stiefel was the underwriter.
Okay, so when it says it's that the board has authorized for a private sale, can you
Yeah.
please explain?
That's a good question. The statutes have some strange language that it's a private sale as opposed to a competitive offering and so on. If we were doing a general obligation bond issue, frequently those are sold under a competitive offering where you establish a sale date and you accept bids on the bonds from various investment banking firms, and whoever has the lowest bid on that date is the winner and will sell the bond. So you might get bids from Stiefel or Edward Jones or Piper Jaffray, but it's purely a low bidder situation. So that is a quote public sale as defined in the statutes. A private sale is essentially anything else. And so we see competitive sales on general obligation bond issues because it's pretty much a plain vanilla transaction. A general obligation bond issue in Brentwood is the same as a general obligation bond issue in every other city or school district. When you get beyond that, you don't see competitive sales because investment banking firms do not bid on, they just don't bid on non-general obligation bond issues. It's too hard to do an apples-to-apples comparison. So a private sale is anything other than, it's a public offering, but it's a private sale from the statutory standpoint because it's not a competitive sale.
And this is not a general obligation bond issue.
Right.
This is a COP. So that's the difference.
Yeah, this is the TIF,
Right.
this is the TIF deal, and so it's not a general obligation bond of the city.
Okay, so it's, the TIF deal is different.
Right.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
because I know,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Stephanie's
It's not a
also
COP.
with-
Last week.
Right, I'm sorry.
It's not a
Yeah, I was
COP,
confused.
it's a,
No, it's the
No,
TIF, but
it's
it's
a
still
TIF
not
deal.
general obligation. Right.
okay, so it's bonds, and so will they be sold to individuals?
Yeah, it's going to be a public offering to individuals and institutional and retail investors.
Okay,
And Brittany Pullen from Stiefel is here as well to answer questions.
okay. In the ordinance says authorizing certain other actions in connection with the execution and delivery of the bonds. What actions would those be?
Well, just like if you're financing your house, the bank has you sign various closing certificates.
Okay.
So this would be signing a closing certificate saying there's no litigation against the city. Signing minutes of meetings, that type of thing. So just closing certificates, tax certificates, that type of stuff.
This one is a little bit different that I don't recall, like the stated maturities. It's telling us that the rates of interest are not going to exceed a certain interest rate of 5%. I thought it was kind of like the bond market, or am I not understanding? And then also there's one other thing, the reason is that the bonds for the Meridian, we ended up, those were bought by the developer and held by them. And at that time, we didn't know the interest rate as to what those were going to be. Do we know, what is the interest rate on those bonds presently? And
on the Meridian?
Meridian.
I didn't bring that with me. I'd have to, I can tell you and get back to you, but I don't recall off the top of my head.
Okay. Okay.
It's pretty low. On this, and Brittany can give you an interest rate estimate, this sets forth various parameters in the final term certificate. And so Stifel's advice is that, recommendation is to, we're not setting final interest rates tonight. On this TIF deal, particularly on a refunding transaction, it's in the city's interest to try and hit the market on the best possible day. And so they don't want to be pegged to this TIF refunding transaction on a Monday. Mondays, typically investment banking firms, whether it's Stifel or any other firm, they try to avoid Mondays and Fridays for pricing bonds. And so they feel like they can get a better pricing if they do it midweek. And plus they want to, if the market's not great at any given time, they want some flexibility to move the pricing date to maximize the savings. And so, so we're asking the board to approve these interest rate parameters, and that's where it has the not to exceed interest rate. And then Stifel will price the bonds, and so then the mayor is authorized to execute documents within these parameters that are set forth.
Is that how we did the last offering? Are these parameters set?
I don't know on the COPS deal, which we did just a few weeks ago, a couple months ago. I don't remember on that transaction. Of course, you know, the distinguishing characteristics, it was a certificate of participation transaction.
I'm just referring to the initial
The last TIF
offering
deal?
of this initial offering of this TIF deal.
You know, I don't recall, to be honest with you. It was so long ago. But so part of it is the fact that it's a TIF deal. Part of the fact is the fact that it's a refunding, and they want so it's to maximize the interest rate savings. Because if the interest rate savings aren't there, then then the deal isn't going to get done.
So this is the first time these bonds have ever been refunded from the initial offering?
Right.
For this particular offering?
Right.
Okay, and is this only impacting the financial, just this Schedule 1? No other terms or conditions of the offering, the indenture?
Yeah, so all the
plan?
documents are final, but for filling in information that is contingent on pricing.
But I mean, compared to the initial offering, there's no changes in the document other than the fact that we're going to refund the bonds?
That's correct. I mean, it's still payable from the same sources of revenue, if that's your question, which is the TIF and the Transportation Development District that exist at Hanley Station. So it's payable from those, so that the sources of revenue haven't changed at all. The structure of the transaction is identical to the prior structure.
And one other comment, Mark, and then Alderman Leahy, but another reason that you're able, not only your interest rates are lower now, which is one of the reasons we want to refinance, but also there's some history with the project so that they have a better idea of the future payments to go forward. So that's another reason to look at trying to refund to lower your interest rate and then have that total savings.
What is the current interest rate on the bonds? What is the present?
5.5%.
Wow, it doesn't seem like much.
Right.
But you're thinking you'll get lower than 5%?
Yeah, I mean,
Right, oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a not to exceed.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Sorry, I'm going to speak to the interest rate. So we will not know the final interest rates on these bonds until we price them, and we expect that to be around April 20th. The market right now, again, the market changes every day. We don't know, if some Fed speak is going to come out or anything like that. But I will say right now, we anticipate getting two different super singers. You had a single term prior to this in the original issue that we'll be refunding, and we're switching that to a 3.25% and a 4%, and that's the estimated as of market rates today. We
So
can't
it's your
guarantee that.
recommendation that you, as Stiefel Nicholas, and Mark Grimm, you as our bond counsel, have come forward and recommend that we refinance these bonds in order to save money for the city?
We believe in the current market environment, the city will save money by going through refunding.
Can I ask a percentage of that belief?
Well, just look at the interest rate. I mean,
I know, but
right.
I mean, you said right now they're at 5%, I'm assuming, but it gives us true interest costs not greater than 5.5%. If we end up there, we're in the same spot, and then we're paying refunding costs and
But-
issuance.
We're not going to.
We wouldn't
We're not
go
gonna
through
do
with
the
it.
deal.
Just
The
have to
current-
think it.
Yeah.
The current savings threshold is 4.25. Sorry, Kevin. The current present value savings is about 4.5%. Okay, the industry standard to do a refinancing is somewhere in the 2.5% to 3% range. And so if Stiefel doesn't achieve that level of savings, we're not going to do Stiefel won't do the deal.
Okay.
Alderman Lady.
In this MLP project, was there not still one more out parcel that was supposed to be built up?
Yeah, and they're still trying to market that parcel, yeah.
But if they get to that portion and do that construction, that will be its own set of bonds all over again?
No, whatever they generate would go directly to this one. It's part of the site.
But
What
the
parcel
building
is that?
cost,
No, they're done.
they're done on that? Okay,
No,
super.
Anything they build now is on their own.
It would be extra revenue coming in to pay the bond down.
Right, and it would pay down more quickly.
Yes, and we love that.
What is the parcel that they're still waiting to develop?
The vacant lot right next to Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you. Second reading?
Second reading, Bill number 5965 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of tax increment refunding revenue bonds, Series 2015, Hamley Station Redevelopment Project of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, for the purpose of refunding certain prior bonds, funding a debt service reserve fund, and paying costs of issuance of the bonds, authorizing the execution of certain documents, and authorizing certain other actions in connection with the execution and delivery of the bonds.
Okay. Have a motion, please?
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that the board perfect Bills 5965 into ordinance form, please.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui stepped out. Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5965 is now ordinance number 4621.
Okay. Before there's a motion on this next bill, I do want to clarify when the current tenant of that building came before the board and was bringing up some of the issues that they have with respect to their parking and their lease that they have in place with their property owner. And I stated that that's something they need to go back and talk to the property owner. I think I'm correct in that statement, and then also giving them the appropriate opinion of the city of Brentwood. It's not appropriate for the city to get involved with negotiations between a leaseholder and their property owner, or a leasee and the property owner. If what the city has to evaluate a site plan and a rezoning on is what the applicant, the property owner, brought forward to the board, and the conditional use permit, or the conditional use permits for those businesses then need to be approved by the Board of Aldermen under our parameters, not based on a lease negotiation. So I don't want people to think that I was trying to be snotty to those existing business owners. We appreciate them having their business here, but those issues really are under the parameter of their lease, and it's not appropriate for the city to get involved with those negotiations. Now, that being said, I would also say it's not appropriate for someone to have a piece of property, have a tenant, and talk about doing renovations with it and not talk to their leasee. They should be ashamed of that. Again, that's not the city's responsibility to make sure that they do that. I also want to be very clear that I think that the only reason that this has become a big issue, except for the existing tenants, which I think their concerns need to be addressed, is because of the misconception that a certain business owner and a certain individual own this property, and the perception that this business owner and in the city of Brentwood was trying to pull something over on the residents. And because, again, we had another public hearing for another property just down the street, and we didn't have one comment. Okay, so I think the perception there was that, again, somebody owned this property, we don't like that person, so let's find out what we can do to delay this. This went through the normal city processes in order of evaluating the rezoning. It went through P&Z, the notices were sent out, just like we've done for every other time that we've done projects like this, or rezoning projects, or petitions for the city of Brentwood. So to say that we're rushing it through and doing it too fast, that's just not true. It's just what people want to perceive that the city's doing. We have our rules and regulations that we have to follow in order to do these things. I want to be very clear on that. Again, I think the concerns of the existing tenant are very legitimate and something that as a landowner or the property owner needs to address. But those really, unfortunately, are not issues that the city evaluates the project on at this point. So I just wanted to be clear on that. So if the city opts, if the Board of Aldermen opts to wait on this petition, that's fine. There was never any, that the city had the option to do that, but we couldn't do that till we got to this point of the meeting and heard the comments from the residents. Okay, it wouldn't be fair for us to do that, make that decision before the meeting. So anyway, I'll stop with there. Alderman Leahy.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a request to the board that bill number 5966 and bill number 5967 be sent back to planning and zoning for clarification of both site plan review and as the parking conforms to the codes for the city of Brentwood.
I'll second that.
Okay, we had a first and second, but I think, again, the parking does meet the city code. Justin, do you want to, what you're asking them to do has already been done, right?
I mean, if the concern is meeting the minimum parking requirements, then yes, it does.
The concern is to the other side contracts as to who has what space and proper countage. Yes, I'll agree there's an 82 parking spot on the property, but if they aren't delegated correctly and traffic flow doesn't work as it's been suggested, then I think there could be an issue that needs to be resolved before this board takes further action.
Well, let me.
That's my request that planning and zoning give them time to work that through.
Well, here would be my suggestion. Don't send it back to planning and zoning. You can put these two bills on hold and ask staff to maybe work with the existing tenant or give them time to work with their landlord to find out exactly what's going on and what consideration there is for those tenants. But to go back to P&Z, there isn't anything for P&Z to do because under our code, this is it is compliant.
The dilemma is that if P&Z does not adjust their recommendations and this board finds in a different frame, then I need a 6-vote majority to overrule a P&Z arrangement. If I send it back to P&Z, P&Z can come back with, here's the clarification and makes everything lay flat, and it's a simpler issue for the Board of Aldermen to address.
At what level would we have to change the site plan? I mean, the board has the flexibility to adjust the site plan based on.
Well,
right. I'm sorry.
It's if the recommendation differs from that of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
So in this circumstance, the Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended approval.
They've made a recommendation to approve it as what you've given us this evening. The current tenant has pointed out issues with both layout, parking spaces, and remodeling that may or may not occur that may or may not interfere with what they're doing and current agreements, which may change the structure of how this comes back to us. Thus, if you give it back to me just like it is now, you haven't clarified or given any of the parties a chance to clarify what's in front of them. If we go back to P&Z and the parties come back to the P&Z group and say, by the way, we would like to tweak map A and B to make it reflect this way, P&Z can send us a clear document that we can address without having to work with supermajorities. That's what I'm trying to avoid.
I don't know that minor changes to the site plan would trigger a supermajority from the board.
Right.
If we have to override a P&Z recommendation, it takes 6 votes.
But you
No.
wouldn't be overriding the recommendation.
You can change the site plan and approve the recommendation. I mean, again, that's what I'm getting at. Again, you couldn't take away 50 parking spaces, but if you're making some adjustments to an approved plan by for instance, we did it at the Board of Aldermen years ago with Home Depot when P&Z approved it with a monument sign, and when it came before the Board of Aldermen, we approved them putting up their 70-foot pole sign. But I think it's really an issue of giving the existing tenants the ability to go back and talk to their landlord and let them resolve their issues, and before the board takes action. So, Alderman Saunders.
Yeah, I agree, since we're made aware that they weren't aware of all of these changes, and they seem significant enough to their way of doing business. And since they are a business in Brentwood and they pay a business license, I think it would be good for them to be able to meet with the owner. I thought maybe planning and zoning would just help facilitate the conversation as far as if they did want to make changes to the lease or whatever, they're very good at coming up with creative ideas for parking and so forth. But if you feel like it can be done between the owner and with you helping Justin to work this out. I had an additional concern, though, was when I looked these up, and I know Justin had given me an answer, I haven't seen the documents, but there's a sub portion of Lot B of 290 that the city owns. And planning and zoning wasn't aware. I went to the comprehensive study and I made them aware that there was a portion of this lot that was given to the city by, I don't know if it's Hanley Station LLD, I had it out, but it's worth $382,000. And I know you said the ordinance addresses Lot B, only Lot B, but I looked at the deed information, and this is sublot B. So B encompasses, I believe, B1.
This is
and we would need to make sure that we
on the plat. So in the legal description in the ordinance, it has a legal description being all of Lot B as recorded in deed book, whatever, page book, whatever.
Right.
If you go to that plat, Lot B1 is Strassner Road.
It's the road.
Right. And then there is, to the other side of that, there is a Lot A and a Lot A1 that's a smaller sliver that the city acquired for the extension of Strassner Road to Hanley.
It's the roadway that the city had to purchase in order to put the extension, actually, MLP funded through the TDD so that we could put the public roadway through.
It goes underneath the Metrolink bridge.
Right.
It was hard to get a deed, like the deed as to what the description was of sublot B1. And it has the same page in that of Lot B.
Right. Because it was subdivided on the same plat.
Right.
Okay.
Because originally half of the roadway was owned by Southside Roofing, or was most of it?
Southside Roofing.
Yeah, well,
Roofing is
no,
who
but
sold
then
it
the
to
other half was owned by the
MLP.
Sherwood or whoever owns the other piece of property. So,
Okay.
and so when it was then when it was platted as the roadway on that same page, and that's the only property that the city owns in there. Right.
Okay, so it was, like I said, DCM or whomever paid $302,000, and then it was transferred to us.
Well, no, it
in
wasn't
2000.
DCM. It was the MLP project.
MLP paid for it? Okay.
Well, the TDD that was set up in order to fund the extension of that roadway through there. And as part of doing that, you had to purchase a property to do it.
Okay, and they did that from South Side, and then MLP
I think Sherwood
transferred
or something
it.
like that owns the other
And
property.
then MLP transferred it to the
After
city.
the road was constructed, right.
Okay. Well, anyway, that was a question that I had, and so now this will permit time. You can show me those legal descriptions on the plat. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. You know, you and I agree occasionally, and I celebrate those times. This is one of those. And I don't mean that as a slight. I look at it as a good thing. The potential rezoning of this area from a existing light industrial plan development, I look forward to a lot more of that happening in Hanley Industrial Court as it continues its transition. In this particular case, I guess fundamentally don't have an issue with this rezoning. My biggest issue is that we have an existing user underneath the same roof as a potential new user in a very key location. And with that in mind, we've got an April 20th meeting that's coming up in a couple weeks. I know we have a motion on the floor to go back to planning and zoning, but I really think that the incongruity between the existing user and the tenant, their landlord, the ownership, and the management company that's overseeing the site can come to a more I guess, agreeable presentation, perhaps at our April 20th meeting, so that we don't have to delay the applicant any further. If we get to the April 20th meeting and there's continuing some sort of a disagreement, we may have an issue on our voting at that meeting, but I hope that we don't have to go all the way back to planning and zoning, and that would be my recommendation, to just go to the next meeting.
I would agree.
May I ask the city attorney, is Mr. Kramer correct that if we did it that way, that if we got the bill back with an amendment to it, that we could just simply pass it as a majority vote?
Yes, I believe you could.
Then, Your Honor, I'll pull back the motion and amend it to going,
Just put them on.
just put them on hold until the April 20th meeting.
Right.
If your second would accommodate that change.
Yes, my second will accommodate.
Okay. So we had a first and second to place bills on 5956 and 5967 on hold. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. First reading of bill number 5968.
First reading Bill Number 5968 by title only, an ordinance granting amended site plan approval to BFA Inc. for construction of accessible ramps, cart storage, signage, and related site improvements of property numbered 90 Brentwood Promenade Court, which permits under the provisions of Title IV, Chapter 400 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances, the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay, synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill number 5968, the site plan approval for number 90 Brentwood Promenade. The bill approves a site plan at that address, the 90 Brentwood Promenade location, the existing Golf Galaxy location, and that's to add and widen accessible ramps for ADA compliance and service to the front of the building. Our Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed and recommended approval of Bill 5968.
Okay, thank you.
Question, Your Honor.
Alderman Lay.
Under this arrangement, does the new tenant fall under the promenade reallocation of the parking spaces to the center of the parking lots for their employees versus parking around this building, or would that
Actually,
be unique to this place?
Well, it would be a little bit, that site is actually part of the Deerbergs project, and so they have their own standalone parking, so.
To work with, okay, so they don't fall under the promenade
Right.
parking adjustment.
Right.
Thank you.
Even though it's still shared, right? I know.
It's just a matter of making it all work, because
Right.
eventually somebody's going to come up and say they don't have enough spots.
Second reading, please.
Second reading Bill Number 5968 by title only, an ordinance granting amended site plan approval to BFA Inc. for construction of accessible ramps, cart storage, signage, and related site improvements at property numbered 90 Brentwood Promenade Court, which permits under the provisions of Title IV, Chapter 400 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. We have a motion, please?
Motion, Your Honor, to perfect Bill 5968 into ordinance form, please.
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5968 is now ordinance number 4622.
Okay, thank you. First reading bill number 5969.
First reading Bill Number 5969 by title only, an ordinance granting approval of a site development plan and conditional use permit to Dubuque Coffee Company LLC for a coffee roasting and storage facility at property numbered 1001 Hamley Industrial Court, which permits under the provisions of Title IV, Chapter 400 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Your Honor, if I may,
Alderman Lay?
I'll renew my recusing on this bill.
Okay, if you would please actually leave the dais, that'd be fine, thank you. We had first and second reading? Synopsis, please, I'm sorry.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5969 covers an ordinance granting approval of a site development plan and conditional use permit to Dubuque Coffee Company, LLC, that for a coffee roasting and storage facility at the property numbered 1001 Hanley Industrial Court, which permits under the provisions of Title IV, Chapter 400 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances, the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing for the effective date of the ordinance. This is Bill 5969.
Thank you. And Alderman Saunders?
My concern with this is that with the Hanley Industrial Study that was done back in 2000, late 90s, the idea was to move the industrial park away from the industrial. And at that time, I know Fred Epstein with Indico was kind of more towards a business park. Now we've talked about mixed use. And so we have planned development, but then again, now we're going to do a conditional use permit to allow a warehouse, which is because that's in light industrial use. So we really haven't taken the time to see, with the review of our plan, we just got the review from the professionals, and they said that they recommend an update of the plan. My concern is, do we know where we're going with this, with the industrial court? And now if we're going to go ahead and permit a light industrial use, should we really be, moving in that direction, or do we want to plan?
Well, do you want to put, just tell all the property owners we're not going to do any new leases till we decide exactly what our plan is for Hanley Industrial Court?
No. I'm just asking, just us as a board, we kind of know the overall intention for that board. And so since we know we're moving in a direction away from industrial, do we want to keep permitting more and more warehouses? I'm just asking as a board. I'm not.
Well, no, I think what you're suggesting is that in order to, you're telling the property owners down there that the city's not going to entertain applications, they're going to keep it commercial uses. It needs a conditional use permit, but, I think you'd be sending a loud, clear message to the property owners down there, that at some point we want to, redevelop that area or move into the city in another direction. I just think you'd be setting a bad precedent if that was your reason for denying the conditional use permit.
I was mainly, I'm open to discussion. It's not like I'm set. I was just thinking, though, that we zoned it planned development for a reason, and so do we want it to be planned development?
It was actually, that site was actually rezoned PD when we had a deal on the table for the construction of the Costco project. And in order for that project to move forward, rezoning was one of the things that needed to be done, and through the processes it was done. Unfortunately, at the very last minute, Costco pulled out of the project once Sam started building sooner over in Maplewood because they didn't want to be behind the Sam store. So we lost that redevelopment project, but the property had already been rezoned at that point. And and we never had a petition from any of the property owners to rezone it back to the same zone, light industrial, like the rest of Hanley Industrial Court. So.
What was the land usage for this, on the future land usage for the map?
All of the industrial court is the regional mixed use.
Okay, and does that include warehouses and regional mixed use?
It does. There's some specific language in the plan itself that talks about the industrial court and allowing the continuance of some of these lighter industrial uses, and specifically calls out warehousing.
It was just a question I was asking, and I didn't know if it set precedents. Do you know what I mean? Because I know we're moving in a certain direction, and I just didn't want to set us back. It's not like I'm opposed to this particular vendor or use. I just didn't know if allowing a warehouse, then if we're going to have more and more warehouses, and we're going to end up back where we started.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. I just want to acknowledge Alderman Saunders' comments about this particular property. However, this is not a change in ownership. It's a use proposal, and they go through the rationale under their addendum A, which I don't know if Justin wants to touch on that at all. But the planned development district is allowing this particular use to take place. It's a unique use that we haven't had in the court before. I know that at some point there have been proposals or talks about another coffee or coffee roasting or maybe even coffee storefront use within the court, which still may or may not happen. But and I'm not sure how long this lease is. That doesn't figure into it. But this is not an ownership that's going to be there forever. This is a use of our existing planning and development posting on the zoning chart, and I personally don't have any issue with it.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5969 by title only, an ordinance granting approval of a site development plan and conditional use permit to Dubuque Coffee LLC for a coffee roasting and storage facility at property numbered 1001 Hanley Industrial Court, which permits under the provisions of Title IV, Chapter 400 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion, please.
Motion to perfect your honor, Bill 5969 into ordinance form.
And second?
Second.
Had a first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5969 is now ordinance number 4623.
Thank you. First reading, Bill number 5970.
First reading, Bill number 5970 by title only, an ordinance amending Title III of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Schedule 12, Table 12C, relating to areas designated as Slow Children Street, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay. We'll skip the synopsis. This is just, again, updating our current code on the slow children streets, or play streets, actually. Any other questions? Roll call. Second reading.
Second reading, Bill number 5970 by title only, an ordinance amending Title III of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Schedule 12, Table 12C, relating to areas designated as Slow Children Street, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay. We have a motion, please.
Your Honor, motion to perfect Bill 5970 into ordinance form, please.
Second.
We have first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5970 is now ordinance number 4624.
Thank you. First reading, Bill number 5971, please.
First reading, Bill number 5971 by title only, an ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 300 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by adding a new paragraph to Schedule 3, Table 3A, no parking at any time, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay, synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5971 is meant to prohibit parking on the south side of Harrison between Patton Avenue and Brentwood Boulevard. Ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 300 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, and that's by adding a new paragraph to Schedule 3, Table 3A, no parking at any time, providing for the current maintenance of the code, providing for the effective date of the ordinance, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances. Bill number 5971.
Thank you. Alderman Leahy.
We received the final report from CPB on their recommendations. Am I correct that their recommendation, it does not reflect what's going on in this ordinance? That one's different than the other?
Justin spoke at length with Lee Cannon, if you want to address what he's recommending that the city do.
I think that the short answer is what the board is currently doing is not inconsistent with his recommendation. So his recommendation, if you go to page 3 or 4, there's basically two parts that he addresses, the north side and the south side. And essentially what he does is he categorizes this block as kind of a transition zone. You've got residential driveways on the north side with a garage on there, and then on the kind of eastern leg of this block, you've got the commercial driveway for the credit union, and then the retail strip center above that. And then you've got the resale store has a driveway.
Yep.
As well. And then you have cars coming off Brentwood Boulevard. So you kind of have this mix of traffic coming into the residential area. You've got the residential traffic, and then you've got the commercial traffic all kind of combining in this little area. So what they look at is, within our code, it says anything, I believe it's 20 feet, the city's traffic engineer can designate as no parking on both sides. Anything less than 30 feet, no parking on one side, but of course they can make a recommendation for additional restrictions. So this street is 24 foot face of curb to face of curb. So this falls in the city's traffic engineer could prohibit parking on one side of the street. And that's essentially what they've recommended. But they've also recommended that because you've got this narrower width within this transition zone, it may be reasonable to look at both sides of the street. What the board has before you tonight to restrict the parking on the one side of the street, there is also a restriction, a temporary restriction, I guess, on the other side of the street that allows no parking between 8 and 5, Monday through Friday, except on holidays. So kind of your typical business hours. So I don't see this recommendation as being inconsistent with what the board has before you.
Am I correct that the CBB report also suggested that this board look at the whole distance from Brentwood Boulevard over to High School so that we don't piecemeal the street?
In general, their thought was, I think their recommendation more so than that was to look at all of these kind of transition areas across the entire city, that you're not treating Harrison different from Ruth down on Manchester. That all of these areas have some sort of consistency with their parking regulations is what they've said.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5971 by title only, an ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 300 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, by adding a new paragraph to Schedule 3, Table 3A, no parking at any time, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay, do you have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
We have a first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5971 is now ordinance number 4625.
Can I,
Alderman Sanders.
I just have one question. Could we see, well, I guess there may be a new public safety committee, but if this study could go to public safety, just to take into account, we just received it tonight so that we can look at some of their concerns. This is a stepping point, but we can always, increase it if we like some of their suggestions or concerns. So if this could be on the public safety agenda, that would be great.
Okay. We have two resolutions before us this evening. Resolution 1029 to establish a law enforcement explorer program. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. The resolution, as you stated, 1029 for the new police program called the Police Explorer Post. The resolution for the City of Brentwood is to approve a law enforcement explorer program coordinated by our police department. The police explorers would be comprised of young adults between the ages of 14 and 21 who have an interest in law enforcement. The program strives for participants to become better citizens and community members while promoting high standards of scholarship, character development, and physical fitness. Once again, this is Resolution 1029.
Okay. Any questions? Alderman Leahy.
Your Honor, I do have a couple of questions on this resolution. Like to address the Safety Committee and I guess the Police Chief for a couple of my questions to work with. In your synopsis, you use the age of 14 to 21. In the manual, it has no applicant younger than the age of 16. So the question is which is it that we're going to maintain to?
It's
14 to 21, the guideline is they have to be out of 8th grade. So, but the age group would be 14 to 21.
Okay, so the manual's incorrect with the 16-year-olds.
The manual actually says 14 to 20 on page 8.
I don't recall seeing 16, I'm not sure.
To be under the application.
Parental approval of under 18.
No, but, no, 3 months probation, 1 year.
At least a C grade average.
No, where did I marked it, I apologize. We've been through this thing a few times, and I apologize. But I'm sorry, that's under the ride-along program. On page 30 is where the 16-year-old age comes in. Explorers must be 16 years of age or older and must have approval of the post advisor. But I guess we're talking the ride-alongs on that to work with. All right. Second issue that I have with it, and for a little background, I've spent 43 years with the Boy Scouts. I think it's a marvelous program. I wouldn't have put in that much time with them. So I do encourage the program. My problem is the time element that works with running an effective scout program. As an adult volunteer, I was putting in anywhere from 15 to 30 hours a week running a scout program. Running the Explorer post, especially in specializing, is going to require lots of man hours in order to run an effective program and to be successful. There are a couple Explorer posts. Kirkwood has one, St. Louis City has one, St. Louis County has one. They're very well done, and they do have kids that work through it, and I believe it's Kirkwood that has a couple of the Explorers that have come through the program and are also now working with their police department as a professional to work with. My problem is the size of the Brentwood Police Department and the potential of committing the hours and everything to make this program work. Under the present program, it states that we will spend $40 per accepted Explorer. But to run this program, you're going to have to pay your advisory staff on the clock or possibly bring them in on overtime and pay them overtime pay to make this program work. And I don't know if that was discussed or worked through in the safety committee or with the police department as to how to make that funds possible. 3 years ago, this board discussed the potential of hiring 3 new officers to try to increase the police patrols in Brentwood with more officers on the street. We couldn't find the money to make that happen, so we adjusted the work shift times so that we could end up increasing the officers and accomplish the same task. You're going to have officers that are going to be pulled in for a program or do ride-alongs that may have limited response capability. So now you're having to decide the primary role of the police department and how much accessory you're going to commit to community service. And I don't know if that was discussed at public safety, because this will become a time and a manpower issue to work with. If I am not mistaken, the Kirkwood program would accept Brentwood residents into their Explorer post to work with. So it's not a city boundary limitation as to who could join where to work with, to go after. Besides running your program, your meetings would most likely be evening meetings. Well, the city made the ECDC switch, and we do not have people in the building after hours. So you would have to have the rule of 2 from the Boy Scouts, 2 adults and 2 youth present in activities. So a police officer coming off the street to write a report in another portion of the area of the building would not qualify as proper supervision for your program to work with. When you do shift changes and your officers go to midnights to, I think it's midnights to 12 in the morning or at noon?
Go from 6 to 6.
Yeah, to work with, you would then have those officers have to either shift back for overtime during meeting nights and programs, or you have to get additional advisors qualified to help run your program. So you're going to get into a little bit more manpower demands for the police department. I'm concerned that maybe not all of this was fully resolved within the city when it went through public safety as to what we want to commit to.
Okay, Chief, do you anticipate any additional salaries needed in order to implement the program?
No, there's 2 officers that are going to be involved, one of which is a detective, so they're not going to be taken off the street. I envision this initially to have the amount of explorers somewhat commensurate with the number of people in this town. I think we're going to be a smaller group for quite a while, and I think it's something that the 2 guys will be able to manage quite effectively.
Within their regular schedules?
Yes.
The last question I have is under the Boy Scout arrangement, your adult advisors will go through the application process, but do the rest of the officers that get involved in ride-along programs have to go through background checks with the Boy Scouts?
No.
Okay.
And we're going to try to keep that limited also. We're going to try to keep the ride-alongs with the 2 that are running the programs.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Chief.
Do we have a motion, please?
Your Honor, motion to approve Resolution 1029 as proposed.
And second?
Second.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed, Your Honor.
Thank you. Resolution 1030, and Alderman, synopsis, please.
Your Honor, Resolution 1030 covers our City of Brentwood Parks Master Plan. The resolution approves the 2015 City of Brentwood Parks Master Plan, which provides guidance to meet recreation needs for the City of Brentwood. Resolution 1030.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion, please?
Your Honor, motion to approve Resolution 1030 as proposed.
And second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Opposed, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next item, accounts against the city. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. We have before you this evening a warrant list dated for today's dispersal in the amount of $243,067.69. I'd like to make a motion to approve the warrant list as submitted.
And is there a second?
I'll second the honor, but I do have questions.
Alderman Kramer, or Alderman Leahy.
We purchased 2 vehicles. I'm assuming they're both dead the same, but we did pay different pricing. I assume one of them has an extra tax or something tagged in, and the other one's a discount, both to Sinclair Ford.
One of the vehicles purchased was a crew cab pickup truck that'll be used for the grass cutting crew. So we can put 4 members in one truck. And
So they are different.
Yes, they are. One's just a regular cab, one is a crew cab.
Thank you. The other question I had, Bola, you and I will get to discuss privately on that one. Thank you, Ed.
Okay. Wait, first, Alderman Kramer.
Just real quick, Bola, you and I discussed this, but I wanted to make sure it was on the record. This is the Brannicky True Value hardware charge for the pallets of the field chalk for the Parks Department. That was a foreseen expense. That is not a surprise.
Right, that was in the budget.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We have first and second to approve the warrant list as submitted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, reports of committee and department heads. Under the mayor's report, I just want to touch on one item because it was brought up with respect to the police department and adding new police officers as the city goes forward, and that'll be a decision for future boards to make. But I would challenge the board as they go forward in evaluating that decision whether to hire more police officers or not. Don't do it out of a feel-good thing to make us feel good because we think we have more police officers on the street. Do it based on statistics and in our crime reports over the last whatever years it is through that evaluation process. I think what you'll find is that the overall crime in the city of Brentwood is pretty constant. We have ups and downs with certain things, but that's historically the same way. And adding new officers aren't always going to change those types of behavior with certain groups. The other thing is, if crime is so bad in Brentwood, then we should evaluate stopping our program with the DEA, where we lend an officer to the DEA on a full-time basis. We've been doing that probably for the last 10 years or so, and that's an officer that if really we have unsafe city or unsafe streets in the city of Brentwood, we could stop that program and bring one officer immediately back to the city of Brentwood. But I just think it needs to be based on statistics more than emotions. And I think that's very important because, in the last, since I know we had at least 6 officers in the 90s through the federal program, and we offered our added 2 the year that we approved the red light program that were supposed to be funded through the red light program as well, so which we no longer have. So, just base it on real need and statistics opposed to emotions. With that, that's all I have under the mayor's report. Public safety, anything further?
I just
He's not
like to
here.
say, though, with
Okay.
the crime, just to have it static, though, it would be nice to see a decrease in crime. And then, too, there are some instances where we've had more armed instances. So
Well,
we
again,
do
I
have to
think
look
you
at the
should-
statistics, but again, stability isn't necessarily saying that the crime rates stay basically the same. A decrease would be nice, and then would probably defer future crime, so we don't wait until the problem happens.
It is decreasing if you look at a 10-year rolling average.
Right, and again, I think, again, just by adding officers doesn't mean you're
I'm
not going
just
to have
saying.
those crimes again, so.
Just depends
okay.
on the goal.
Okay. Public Works Committee, anything further?
No report, Your Honor.
Director of Planning, anything further? Ways and Means Committee.
Yes, Your Honor, we have our next meeting here in Chambers on second Tuesday of this month. That's April 14th, 6:30 on schedule.
Great. City Attorney?
No report, Your Honor.
City Clerk?
No report, Your Honor.
Excise Commissioner's not present, but we do have a temporary liquor license for Hacienda, and I believe this is for the trivia night that's coming up
correct.
at St. Mary Magdalene.
Right.
So if I could have a motion to approve a temporary liquor license for April the 18th?
11.
11th, okay, thank you.
So moved, Your Honor.
And second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Library, nothing. Municipal League, nothing. Historical Society, nothing. We do have a closed session tonight for a legal and employee matter.
Negotiations with employee group.
Right. Any unfinished business? Any new business? Alderman Lay.
Your Honor, I'd like to start with new business and thank Alderman Harper, Alderman Nguyen, Alderman Robertson, and your Honor, Mayor Kelly, for a lot of good years and a lot of good effort, and honestly, a lot of time spent behind the scenes doing the job. And I thank you all for giving of your time to make it work for us.
You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate that.
If I may continue?
Yes.
The Ward 3 meeting for the month of April will be Tuesday night, the 28th of April at 7 o'clock here at the Chamber Room. All are invited. Thank you, Your Honor.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. I believe this is a mix of new business and old business. The Manhasset Village Luxury Apartment Project, which I think is still going to be called E4 Living, is moving forward and should begin construction by April's end. That was discussed earlier regarding the topic of Eager Road. As well, there's been a little bit of a change for those who follow the Town and Country Apartments parcel on Eager Road. That was a previously approved professional office campus called Eager Ridge. That's been scrapped, and that property, as you may understand or may remember, is owned by MoDOT. It was bought about 10 years ago to facilitate the ramp and the highway contouring of the new I-64. MoDOT now has an agreement with a new developer, and that new developer is coming before the Richmond Heights Planning and Zoning Commission on Thursday, April 16th, 7 o'clock. For WB Properties Olive LLC, they're proposing a mid-rise 90-bed senior assisted living facility, and I believe that's going to be good news. From what I understand, speaking with the developer himself, they are envisioning, sorry about that interruption. They are envisioning because the Senior Assisted Living Center has memory care, they're envisioning a very low traffic usage, a low parking usage. As well, the building itself is to be positioned on the eastern end of the property, basically obscuring the flyover ramp that we've always had trouble with, conversations in the past, with the parking bay to the west. That's envisioned to get underway by this fall, if they get their approvals, through Richmond Heights this spring. And finally, Your Honor, good luck to all the candidates tomorrow. Thank you.
Great. Actually, I did have two other items I want to update the board on. First of all, there is a new tenant for the Thomasville site in Promenade, and that's going to be a men's extra large men's clothing store.
All right.
I won't be shopping there. Anyway. Well, not yet anyway. Maybe in a few years I will be. But so, the other one, and this is really actually exciting news for the city of Brentwood. I think it shows the desire to be in our community, and despite all the negative things that you want to hear about the city of Brentwood, but we're still a place that businesses want to locate. Drury Hotels and Suites has purchased half interest in the Center 40 office building here in the city of Brentwood. At some point in the future, hopes to make this their headquarters for all of their operations. So I think that's real exciting for the city of Brentwood. Also, by doing that, also may help in the future facilitate one of the key things that we tried to get done with with their project, but is the connection between their project and a roadway going to Rose Avenue to increase the circulation for all of the businesses in that area. So that's just very exciting for the community. And again, I think it says a lot. The businesses want to make that investment and be in the city of Brentwood. So with that, we have, if there's anybody who would like to address the board, please come forward and give us your name and address.
Karen Smith Harrison, sorry, I'd hoped to end on a happy note, but I just wanted to be clear about my comments related to that 290 Hanley Industrial property. Even though that person that we were talking about earlier, Don Music, doesn't own that property, he's still very involved with it if he's the property manager, and apparently he's also involved with the asset management, so I still feel he's very closely tied. The comment that I don't like this person, for me personally, I don't know the person, so I can't say whether I like him or not. All I can do is judge him by how he has conducted his business in our city. There were problems with one of the properties that he owned or a development that he put in here, and there was also problems that he had with the garage that he built with the county. So there's been problems with that developer. For us, it resulted in a lawsuit that dragged our city for multiple years through that lawsuit. And it was not a transparent process. The documents were documented. So my comments related to that was to encourage you, especially with the changes in the rezoning, is to make sure that we did our due diligence, and especially in light of the comprehensive plan that came out and talked about the fact that there are some inconsistencies in how we're looking at that property, and we maybe don't have quite a vision that everybody can understand. I'm encouraging you to be due diligent, and I stand by that comment. Even though he doesn't own the property, he's still involved with what's going on with it. So thank you.
Merry Christmas, 2408 Bremerton. Thank you for Let's Singer event. I know it's going to happen someday, and it'll be a real plus to Brentwood and our traffic through there, but thanks for your many hours of work.
It's been out to bid, and the contractor's been selected, so it will be this summer.
Yeah.
With all the other roads in Brentwood. So. All right. Well,
Your
great.
Honor,
Thank you.
a motion to go into executive
Thank you.
session
And
for a
second?
legal matter and negotiations.
You have a second?
Second that.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Hawker?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderman Saunders?
No.
Okay. We will meet upstairs right away.
Can you help us with the door?